You cannot control the weather. You cannot control what other people think about you. You cannot control the past. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control traffic. You cannot control aging. You cannot control most of what happens in your life. Yet you spend enormous amounts of energy trying. You worry. You plan. You stress. You lose sleep. You replay conversations. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You try to prepare for every possible outcome, and none of it changes what you cannot control. This creates suffering, not because life is hard, but because you are fighting reality. What if you could stop fighting? What if you could let go of what you cannot change? What if you could find peace right in the middle of uncertainty? This is not about giving up. This is about freedom. Real freedom comes from knowing the difference between what you can control and what you cannot, and then putting all your energy into what actually matters. Most people live backwards. They focus on things they cannot control and ignore the things they can. They worry about whether people will like them instead of focusing on being their authentic self. They stress about getting the promotion instead of focusing on doing excellent work. They fear rejection instead of focusing on putting themselves out there. They obsess over outcomes instead of focusing on their efforts. This backwards approach guarantees frustration. There is an old story about a farmer. One day his horse ran away. His neighbors said, "This is terrible news." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day the horse came back with 3 wild horses. The neighbors said, "This is wonderful news." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day his son tried to ride one of the wild horses and broke his leg. The neighbors said, "This is terrible news." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day the army came to draft young men for war, but they did not take his son because of his broken leg. The neighbors said, "This is wonderful news." The farmer said, "Maybe." The farmer understood something most people never learn. He could not control what happened. He could only control his response. He did not waste energy labeling events as good or bad. He did not try to predict the future. He simply dealt with what was in front of him. This is the essence of detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold or passive. It does not mean you give up on your goals. Detachment means you stop tying your peace to outcomes you cannot control. You still do your best. You still work hard. You still care deeply. But you release your grip on results. You trust the process. You accept uncertainty. You make peace with not knowing how things will turn out. This is one of the hardest skills to learn. Your brain is wired to seek control. It wants to predict. It wants to plan. It wants guarantees. When life feels uncertain, your brain perceives this as danger. It triggers stress responses. It floods you with anxiety. It creates scenarios to prepare you for threats. This served humans well thousands of years ago, but in the modern world, this constant need for control creates more problems than it solves. You cannot control whether you get the job, but you can control how well you prepare for the interview. You cannot control whether your partner stays with you, but you can control how you show up in the relationship. You cannot control if you get sick, but you can control your habits and choices. You cannot control the past, but you can control what you do right now. This shift in focus changes everything. Over the next 12 chapters, you will learn how to make this shift. You will learn to identify what is truly in your control and what is not. You will learn why your brain clings to control and how to work with it instead of against it. You will learn specific practices for letting go. You will discover how to find peace in uncertainty. You will understand the difference between healthy striving and exhausting struggle, and you will build a life based on what you can actually influence. This journey requires courage. Letting go feels scary at first. Your mind will resist. It will tell you that letting go means giving up. It will create fears about what might happen if you stop trying to control everything. But on the other side of that fear is something beautiful: freedom, peace, the ability to live fully in each moment without being haunted by what might go wrong. The practices in this book are simple, but not easy. They require daily attention. They require patience with yourself. They require the willingness to feel uncomfortable, but they work. Thousands of people have used these principles to find peace in chaotic lives. You can too. All you need is the commitment to try. Let's begin this journey together. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Control. Michael checked his phone for the seventh time in 10 minutes. His interview had ended 3 hours ago. They said they would make a decision by end of day. It was almost 5 o'clock. Why had they not called? Did he say something wrong? Should he send a follow-up email? Maybe that would seem desperate. Maybe he should wait until tomorrow. What if they already chose someone else? What if he bombed the interview and did not realize it? His stomach was in knots. He could not focus on anything else. He refreshed his email obsessively. He rehearsed the interview in his mind, analyzing every answer he gave. He imagined calling them. He imagined what he would say if they rejected him. He created backup plans and contingency plans, and plans for those plans. Meanwhile, 3 hours of his life slipped away into a black hole of worry. Here is what Michael did not realize. The decision was already made. Either they chose him or they did not. His worry changed nothing. His mental rehearsals changed nothing. His backup plans changed nothing. He was spending enormous energy trying to control something that was completely out of his hands. This is the illusion of control. We believe that worrying is productive. We believe that planning for every scenario keeps us safe. We believe that if we just think about it enough, we can influence the outcome, but we cannot. The illusion of control shows up everywhere. You check the weather obsessively before a trip, as if knowing the forecast will somehow change it. You worry about what people think of you, as if your worry will make them like you more. You replay arguments in your mind, trying to figure out what you should have said differently. You stress about your health, convinced that anxiety will somehow prevent illness. You lose sleep over decisions that have already been made. None of this changes reality, but it does steal your peace. Psychologists have studied this extensively. They call it the illusion of control bias. Humans consistently overestimate their ability to influence outcomes. In one famous study, people were more confident about winning a lottery if they chose their own numbers rather than having numbers assigned randomly. Logically, this makes no sense. The odds are exactly the same either way. But emotionally, choosing your own numbers feels like you have more control. This same pattern plays out in bigger ways throughout life. You believe that if you worry enough about your kids, you can keep them safe. You believe that if you stress enough about work, you will perform better. You believe that if you plan enough, life will go according to your expectations. These beliefs are comforting. They make the world feel predictable. They give you a sense of agency, but they are false, and clinging to them causes suffering. Think about the last time you were stuck in traffic. You probably felt frustrated. Maybe you honked your horn. Maybe you changed lanes repeatedly, trying to find a faster route. Maybe you checked your GPS over and over, hoping for a miracle shortcut. Maybe you called ahead to apologize for being late. All of this is normal, and all of it is an attempt to control something you cannot control. The traffic is what it is. You are going to arrive when you arrive. Fighting this reality does not change it. It just makes the experience miserable. Now imagine a different approach. You are stuck in the same traffic, but instead of fighting it, you accept it. You cannot control the traffic. You can control how you spend this time. You could listen to music you love. You could call a friend. You could listen to an audiobook. You could practice breathing exercises. You could simply sit in silence and let your mind rest. The external situation is identical, but your internal experience is completely different. This is the power of detachment. Detachment is not about becoming passive. Michael still prepared thoroughly for his interview. He researched the company. He practiced his answers. He dressed professionally. He arrived on time. He did everything within his control. But once the interview ended, his control ended too. Continuing to worry did not increase his chances. It just decreased his peace. This distinction is crucial. There are things you can control: your effort, your attitude, your preparation, your choices, your responses. These deserve your full attention and energy. Then there are things you cannot control: other people's decisions, the economy, the weather, the past, how things will turn out. These deserve acceptance, not indifference, not apathy. Acceptance, the serenity to let them be what they are without consuming your mental and emotional resources. The famous serenity prayer captures this perfectly. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Most people skip over that last part, the wisdom to know the difference. This is where the real work lives, learning to distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot. Your brain does not want to make this distinction. It wants to feel in control of everything. This is a survival mechanism. Thousands of years ago, humans who tried to control their environment survived better than those who did not. If you could control where you found food, you did not starve. If you could control your shelter, you did not freeze. If you could control threats, you did not get eaten. Control meant survival. But the modern world is different. You are not hunting for food or running from predators. Most of what you worry about are not actual threats. They are possibilities, scenarios, things that might happen. Your promotion might not come through. Your relationship might end. Your health might decline. Your investments might lose value. These are not current emergencies. They are potential future problems, and your brain treats them as if they are happening right now. This is why you feel so exhausted. Your nervous system stays activated. Your stress hormones stay elevated. Your muscles stay tense. Your mind stays vigilant. All of this because you are trying to control things that have not happened yet and might never happen. You are fighting imaginary battles, and those battles are real enough to your body and mind that they cause real damage. Learning to detach does not mean you stop caring about outcomes. Michael cared deeply about getting the job, but caring and controlling are different. Caring means you invest your best effort. Controlling means you believe your worth depends on the outcome. Caring is healthy. Controlling is exhausting. Caring motivates you. Controlling paralyzes you. Caring opens you up. Controlling shuts you down. When you detach from outcomes, something interesting happens. You often perform better. Athletes call this being in the zone. Musicians call it flow. It is that state where you are fully engaged in what you are doing without being attached to results. You are not thinking about winning or losing. You are not worried about what people will think. You are just present with the action itself. Ironically, this detachment often leads to better outcomes than white-knuckling your way through with desperate attachment. Think about a time when you tried really hard to fall asleep, but could not. The harder you tried, the more awake you became. Your effort worked against you, but when you finally stopped trying and just rested, sleep came naturally. Or think about trying to remember someone's name. The harder you force it, the more it escapes you. But when you relax and stop trying, it pops into your mind. This same principle applies to larger parts of life. Sometimes the best way to get what you want is to stop gripping it so tightly. This does not mean you should not have goals. Goals are important. They give you direction. They motivate you. They help you make decisions. But there is a difference between setting a goal and attaching your peace to achieving it. You can work toward something without making your happiness dependent on getting it. You can want something without needing it. You can try your best without demanding a specific result. Michael eventually got a call back. He got the job, but by the time they called, he had already let go. He had spent the evening doing things he enjoyed instead of spiraling in worry. When his phone rang, he felt happy, but he also knew that if they had said no, he would have been okay. He had done his best. The outcome was never in his control. Worrying about it would not have changed anything. This realization was more valuable than the job itself. In the coming chapters, you will learn specific practices for developing this ability. You will learn how to catch yourself trying to control the uncontrollable. You will learn how to redirect that energy toward what you can actually influence. You will learn how to sit with uncertainty without needing to fix it. You will learn how to trust the process even when you cannot see the outcome. And you will discover that real peace does not come from controlling your life. It comes from accepting what you cannot control and showing up fully for what you can. For now, just start noticing. Pay attention to where you spend your mental energy. How much time do you spend worrying about things that are already decided? How much energy do you waste trying to change the past? How often do you stress about outcomes that are completely out of your hands? Do not judge yourself for this. Everyone does it. Just notice. Awareness is always the first step. The illusion of control is comfortable. It makes you feel like you are doing something. It gives you the sense that your worry is productive, but it is a trap. Real power comes from knowing what you can control and focusing there. Everything else is just noise. Everything else is energy you could be using to actually live your life instead of trying to micromanage it. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to fail at things. People are going to disappoint you. Plans are going to fall apart. Life is going to surprise you in ways you did not expect. This is guaranteed. Fighting against this guarantee is what creates suffering. Accepting it is what creates peace, not a passive, defeated peace, an active, alive peace that comes from engaging fully with life while releasing your grip on how it all has to turn out. The journey starts here. Chapter 2. What you can actually control. Lisa stood in front of her closet, completely paralyzed. She had a first date in 2 hours, and nothing felt right. The blue dress was too formal, the jeans were too casual, the black top made her look washed out. She tried on outfit after outfit, each one triggering a new wave of anxiety. What if he does not like what I wear? What if I look like I am trying too hard? What if I look like I am not trying hard enough? What if he thinks I am boring? What if he thinks I am too much? After an hour of this torture, she sat on her bed surrounded by rejected clothes and had a realization. She could not control whether he would like her. She could not control whether there would be chemistry. She could not control whether this would lead to a second date. She could not control his preferences, or his past, or his expectations. But she could control something. She could show up as herself. She could wear something that made her feel good. She could be honest. She could be present. She could decide how she wanted to conduct herself regardless of the outcome. This simple shift changed everything. She put on the outfit that felt most comfortable. She stopped rehearsing clever things to say. She stopped trying to predict how the evening would go. She focused on the only thing she could actually control, her own choices, her own behavior, her own presence. Understanding what you can actually control is the foundation of detachment. Most people get this backwards. They focus enormous energy on things completely outside their control, while neglecting the few things they can actually influence. This creates a terrible cycle. The more you focus on what you cannot control, the more powerless you feel. The more powerless you feel, the more desperately you try to control things. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more frustrated you become. Round and round it goes. Breaking this cycle starts with a clear understanding of your actual sphere of influence. Think of your life as 3 concentric circles. The innermost circle contains things you have complete control over. The middle circle contains things you can influence, but not control. The outer circle contains things completely beyond your control. Most people spend most of their time in the outer circle. This is the source of their suffering. Let's start with the innermost circle. What do you have complete control over? The list is shorter than you think. You control your thoughts. Well, not the thoughts that pop into your head automatically. Those just appear. But you control which thoughts you pay attention to and which ones you let go. You control where you direct your focus. When your mind wanders to worry, you can bring it back to the present. When your mind spirals into worst-case scenarios, you can redirect it. This is not easy, but it is possible, and it is completely within your control. You control your actions, not the outcomes of those actions, not how people respond to those actions, but the actions themselves. You can choose to be kind even when someone is rude to you. You can choose to work hard even when you are not sure it will pay off. You can choose to show up even when you feel like hiding. You can choose your words. You can choose your tone. You can choose your effort. These are yours. Nobody can take them away. You control your responses. Life will throw things at you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall through. Things will go wrong. You cannot control any of that, but you can control how you respond. You can respond with grace or with bitterness. You can respond with curiosity or with defensiveness. You can respond with acceptance or with resistance. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote that between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is your power to choose your response. This space exists even in the most extreme circumstances. It certainly exists in your daily life. You control your standards, not whether you meet them every time, but what you hold yourself to. You can decide what kind of person you want to be. You can decide what values matter to you. You can decide what behaviors align with those values. Other people might not appreciate your standards. Circumstances might make it hard to maintain them, but the standards themselves are yours to set. Nobody can force you to compromise them unless you choose to. You control your boundaries. You get to decide what you will accept and what you will not. You get to decide how people can treat you. You get to decide what you will tolerate in your relationships and your work and your life. Setting boundaries is hard. Maintaining them is harder. People will push back. They will call you selfish. They will try to guilt you into abandoning your limits, but the boundaries themselves are yours. You always have the power to say no. You always have the power to walk away. You always have the power to protect your peace. You control your habits, what you do consistently over time, whether you exercise or not, whether you eat well or not, whether you read or scroll mindlessly, whether you go to bed early or stay up late, whether you practice gratitude or complain, whether you meditate or let your mind run wild. Nobody forces you to do these things or not do them. They are choices you make every single day, small choices, but they compound, and they are entirely within your control. You control your environment to a significant degree, where you spend your time, who you spend it with, what you expose yourself to, what you read and watch and listen to, whether your space is cluttered or organized, whether you surround yourself with negativity or positivity. You might not control every aspect of your environment. You might not be able to move to a different city right now, but you can control more than you think, and what you can control matters enormously. This is your innermost circle, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your standards, your boundaries, your habits, your environment. This is where your power lives. This is where you should focus most of your energy. Not all of it, but most of it. Because this is the only place where your effort actually creates change. The middle circle contains things you can influence but not control. You can influence your health, but you cannot control it completely. You can eat well and exercise and get enough sleep. You can avoid smoking and excessive drinking. You can manage stress. You can see doctors regularly. All of this influences your health significantly. But you cannot guarantee you will never get sick. You cannot control your genetics. You cannot control accidents. You can influence the odds, but you cannot control the outcome. You can influence your relationships, but you cannot control them. You can be kind and honest and present. You can communicate clearly. You can show up consistently. You can apologize when you are wrong. You can work on yourself. All of this influences how your relationships go. But you cannot control how other people feel. You cannot control whether they choose to stay or leave. You cannot control their past wounds or their future choices. You can influence the dynamic, but you cannot control the outcome. You can influence your career, but you cannot control it. You can develop skills. You can work hard. You can network. You can take on challenging projects. You can ask for what you want. All of this influences your career trajectory, but you cannot control whether you get the promotion. You cannot control office politics. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control your boss's decisions. You can influence your professional life significantly, but you cannot control it completely. This middle circle is tricky. It is where most confusion happens. People either ignore their influence and become passive, or they overestimate their influence and become controlling. The key is to focus on what you can do while releasing attachment to outcomes. Put in the effort, make the healthy choices, show up well, then let go of whether it produces the exact result you want. Lisa could influence whether her date went well. She could be herself. She could ask good questions. She could be present. She could be authentic. All of this influenced the interaction, but she could not control whether he liked her. She could not control whether they were compatible. She could not control whether this led anywhere. Trying to control those things would have made her anxious and inauthentic, which ironically would have made the date go worse. The outer circle contains everything else, things completely beyond your control. What other people think of you, what happened in the past, what will happen in the future, the weather, the economy, aging, death, global events, other people's choices. Most of life falls into this circle. This is humbling to realize, but it is also freeing. When you truly accept that you cannot control these things, you stop wasting energy trying. You stop losing sleep over whether people like you. You stop replaying past mistakes, as if thinking about them harder will change what happened. You stop catastrophizing about the future, as if worry will prevent bad things. You stop checking the weather obsessively before a trip, as if your checking will change it. You just let these things be what they are. This does not mean you do not care about them. You can care deeply about things you cannot control. You can care about the environment, even though you cannot single-handedly stop climate change. You can care about social issues, even though you cannot fix systemic problems alone. You can care about your aging parents, even though you cannot stop time. Caring and controlling are different. Caring motivates action within your control. Controlling creates suffering from trying to change what you cannot. Here is a simple practice. For one whole day, notice where you direct your mental energy. Every time you catch yourself worrying or stressing or planning, ask yourself a simple question: is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action or make a plan, then let it go. If the answer is no, consciously redirect your attention to something you can control. Do not judge yourself when you catch yourself focused on the uncontrollable. Just gently redirect, over and over, all day long. You will be shocked at how much mental energy you spend in the outer circle. You will also be shocked at how much energy becomes available when you redirect it to the inner circle. Instead of worrying whether your presentation will be well received, you can focus on preparing it well. Instead of stressing about whether you will get stuck in traffic, you can focus on leaving early. Instead of obsessing over whether someone is mad at you, you can focus on reaching out kindly. Instead of catastrophizing about potential health problems, you can focus on today's healthy choices. This redirecting is not a one-time thing. Your brain will constantly pull you back to the outer circle. It will constantly try to convince you that worrying is productive. It will constantly tempt you to try controlling the uncontrollable. This is normal. This is what brains do. The practice is not to stop your brain from doing this. The practice is to notice it happening and choose differently. Think of your attention like a spotlight. You can point it anywhere. When you point it at things you cannot control, you feel anxious and powerless. When you point it at things you can control, you feel capable and grounded. The circumstances around you might be exactly the same, but your experience is completely different based on where you direct your attention. Sarah was going through a divorce. She could not control whether her ex-husband would be reasonable. She could not control how the courts would rule. She could not control what her friends thought about the situation. She could not control how long it would take or how much it would cost. All of this was in the outer circle. For months she spent every waking moment focused on these things. She was miserable. Then she shifted her focus. She could not control the divorce proceedings, but she could control how she took care of herself during them. She could exercise, she could eat well, she could see friends, she could go to therapy, she could be kind to herself, she could focus on her kids, she could build the life she wanted post-divorce. None of this changed the legal situation, but it changed her experience of it completely. She moved from powerless victim to active participant in her own life. This is the paradox of control. The more you try to control what you cannot, the more out of control you feel. The more you focus on what you can control, the more in control you actually are. Not control over your circumstances, control over yourself, control over your responses, control over your experience. This is the only control that matters. This is the only control you ever really had. Most people spend their whole lives trying to control the outer circle. They manipulate, they worry, they scheme, they try to anticipate every possibility. They attempt to manage other people's feelings and choices. They exhaust themselves trying to force life to go according to their plans. And they wonder why they feel so stressed and powerless. It is because they are focusing their power in places where it does not work. It is like trying to start a car with a house key. No matter how hard you try, it will not work. You are using your power in the wrong place. Your power works in the inner circle. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your standards, your boundaries, your habits, your environment. When you focus here, you feel strong, you feel capable, you feel grounded, not because your circumstances are perfect, but because you are using your power where it actually functions. Lisa's date went well, not because she controlled the outcome, but because she showed up authentically. She wore what felt good. She was honest. She was present. He appreciated that. They connected. They are still dating months later. But here is the important part. If it had not gone well, she would have been okay too, because she had focused on what she could control. She had shown up as herself. She had been kind. She had been present. That was all she could do. That was enough. The outcome was never hers to control, and accepting that gave her peace, regardless of how things turned out. This is what you are building, the ability to focus your energy where it actually works, the wisdom to know the difference between what you can control and what you cannot, the courage to act on what you can control, the serenity to accept what you cannot. This is not easy, this is not quick, but this is freedom. Chapter 3. Why your brain craves certainty. David could not stop checking his phone. His doctor had run some tests 3 days ago and promised to call with results. Every notification made his heart race. Every hour that passed without a call made his anxiety spike. He could not focus at work. He could not enjoy dinner with his family. He could not sleep well. His mind created elaborate worst-case scenarios. What if it is cancer? What if I only have months to live? What if I never get to see my kids grow up? The uncertainty was eating him alive. When the doctor finally called, the news was good. Nothing serious, just a vitamin deficiency. David felt a wave of relief so powerful it almost knocked him over. But then he noticed something interesting. Within an hour, his mind had moved on to a new uncertainty. What about that presentation next week? What if his boss does not like it? What if he gets passed over for promotion again? The relief had lasted less than 60 minutes before his brain found something new to worry about. This is not a character flaw. This is how brains work. Your brain is a prediction machine. It constantly scans the environment, looking for patterns. It tries to anticipate what will happen next. It craves certainty because certainty feels safe. Uncertainty triggers alarm bells. When your brain does not know what is coming, it perceives this as danger, and it responds the way it has responded for thousands of years, with stress, with vigilance, with worry. Understanding this changes everything. You are not broken. Your anxiety about uncertainty is not a personal failing. It is your brain doing exactly what brains evolved to do. The problem is that your brain evolved for a different world, a world where uncertainty often meant real danger, a world where not knowing what was around the corner could get you killed. In that world, a brain that constantly scanned for threats and craved predictability kept you alive. But you do not live in that world anymore. You live in a world where most uncertainty is not dangerous. You live in a world where not knowing how things will turn out is just part of life. You live in a world where the future is fundamentally unpredictable, no matter how much you worry about it. Your ancient brain has not caught up to this modern reality. It still treats uncertainty like a life or death situation. It still floods you with stress hormones when you face the unknown. It still tries to create certainty even when none exists. This is why you make lists and plans and backup plans. This is why you research obsessively before making decisions. This is why you ask for reassurance over and over. This is why you try to control outcomes. Your brain is trying to create the feeling of certainty. Even false certainty feels better than no certainty at all. Even the illusion of control feels better than accepting you have none. Scientists have done fascinating research on this. They put people in situations where they had to wait for an electric shock. Some people were told exactly when the shock would come. Others were told it would come at some random point during the waiting period. The people who knew when the shock was coming had much lower stress levels. Even though they knew pain was coming, the certainty of when made it more bearable. The people who faced uncertainty about timing had much higher anxiety. The uncertainty was worse than the guaranteed pain. This explains so much about human behavior. People often prefer bad news to no news. They would rather know something is definitely not going to work out than sit in the uncertainty of maybe. They make impulsive decisions just to end the discomfort of not knowing. They create conflict in relationships because fighting feels more certain than the ambiguity of everything being fine but not knowing where they stand. They quit jobs prematurely. They end relationships unnecessarily. They choose the certainty of a bad outcome over the uncertainty of a potentially good one. Your brain also has another trick. When faced with uncertainty, it fills in the blanks, it creates stories, it makes assumptions, it jumps to conclusions. David's brain did not wait for test results, it immediately assumed the worst. Why? Because assuming the worst feels like preparation. If you imagine the worst-case scenario and it does not happen, you feel relieved. If you imagine the worst and it does happen, you feel prepared. Either way, you feel less vulnerable than if you had just sat in the uncertainty without knowing. But this strategy has a massive cost. You suffer through terrible scenarios that never happen. You waste energy preparing for disasters that do not come. You experience anxiety and fear and stress over imaginary futures. And even when things turn out fine, your brain learns nothing. It just moves on to the next uncertainty and starts the whole cycle again. Think about how often you have worried about something that never happened. Think about how much mental energy you spent preparing for outcomes that never came to pass. Think about how many times the thing you dreaded either did not happen at all or was much less terrible than you imagined. Probably most of the time, but your brain does not update its strategy. It keeps using worry and worst-case thinking because it feels productive. It feels like you are doing something. It feels like you are protecting yourself. The truth is different. Worry does not protect you. It just makes you suffer in advance. Planning for every possible scenario does not make you safer. It just exhausts you. Trying to eliminate all uncertainty does not make life more predictable. It just makes you more rigid and less able to handle the surprises that inevitably come. Here is what your brain does not understand. Uncertainty is not the same as danger. Not knowing what will happen is uncomfortable, but it is not inherently threatening. You can be uncertain and safe at the same time. You cannot know the future and still be okay right now. You can face unpredictability without needing to create false certainty through worry and control. This requires retraining your brain. Your automatic response to uncertainty is fear. This is not going to change overnight, but you can change what you do with that fear. You can notice it without acting on it. You can feel the discomfort without trying to eliminate it through worry or control. You can sit in the uncertainty without filling it with worst-case scenarios. Rachel was waiting to hear if she got into graduate school. For weeks she checked her email constantly. She could not concentrate on anything else. She played out elaborate fantasies about getting in, and equally elaborate catastrophes about getting rejected. She asked everyone around her for reassurance. She researched backup plans obsessively. She was miserable. Then she tried something different. She acknowledged what was happening. My brain is uncomfortable with uncertainty. That is normal. That is what brains do. But I do not have to make it worse by adding worry on top of uncertainty. I can just let the uncertainty be what it is. Uncomfortable, but not dangerous. She still felt anxious, but she stopped feeding the anxiety with constant checking and worst-case thinking. She redirected her attention to what was actually in front of her, her current classes, her current relationships, her current life. The acceptance letter came. But more importantly, Rachel learned something valuable. She could tolerate uncertainty. It was uncomfortable, but she did not need to make it worse. She did not need to suffer through imaginary rejections before knowing the actual outcome. This skill served her far better than the acceptance letter, because life is full of uncertainty. Jobs, relationships, health, money. You cannot eliminate it. You can only change how you relate to it. Your brain craves certainty because it mistakes uncertainty for danger. But most of what you are uncertain about is not dangerous. It is just unknown. Will you get the job? Unknown. Will the relationship work out? Unknown. Will you be healthy next year? Unknown. Will your kids be okay? None of these unknowns are dangerous right now. They are just uncomfortable for your brain. Learning to distinguish between danger and discomfort is crucial. Danger requires action. If you are in actual danger, your stress response is appropriate. Fight or flight makes sense, but most of what triggers your stress response is not danger. It is discomfort. It is the discomfort of not knowing. It is the discomfort of lack of control. It is the discomfort of facing the future without guarantees. Discomfort does not require action. It requires tolerance. It requires the willingness to feel uncomfortable without trying to fix it. This goes against everything your brain wants. Your brain wants to eliminate discomfort immediately. It wants to create certainty. It wants to regain control. It wants to know what will happen, but you cannot always give your brain what it wants. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Just sit with the discomfort. Just let the uncertainty be uncertain. This is not easy. Your entire nervous system is designed to seek certainty and avoid ambiguity. When you stop trying to create false certainty through worry and control, you will feel more anxious at first, not less, because you are no longer giving your brain the illusion that you are doing something productive. You are facing the raw discomfort of not knowing. Your brain will hate this. It will scream at you to worry. It will insist that if you just think about it more, you can figure it out. It will try to convince you that letting go of control is dangerous. But here is what happens when you stay with it. The discomfort peaks, then it passes. Anxiety cannot stay at maximum intensity forever. It rises and falls like a wave. If you do not feed it with worry and worst-case thinking, it crests and then recedes. You discover something profound. You can survive uncertainty. You can tolerate not knowing. You can live without guarantees. The world does not fall apart because you stop trying to control it. Life continues, and you start to build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes. This does not mean you become careless. You still make thoughtful decisions. You still plan reasonably. You still take sensible precautions. But you stop trying to eliminate all uncertainty. You stop demanding that life give you guarantees before you move forward. You accept that some degree of not knowing is just part of being alive, and you focus your energy on what you can actually do instead of spinning in anxiety about what might happen. Think about people you admire who handle uncertainty well, athletes who perform under pressure, entrepreneurs who take calculated risks, parents who raise kids without being able to control every outcome, artists who create without knowing if anyone will appreciate their work. What do they have in common? They are not more certain than you. They face just as much unpredictability, but they have learned to act despite uncertainty. They have learned to move forward without needing to know exactly how things will turn out. They have made peace with the fundamental uncertainty of life. You can develop this same capacity, not by changing your circumstances, not by making life more predictable, but by changing how you respond when your brain craves certainty. When you notice yourself spiraling in worry, pause, recognize what is happening. My brain is uncomfortable with uncertainty. It wants to create the illusion of control through worry, but I do not have to participate in that. I can acknowledge the discomfort without adding to it. I can redirect my attention to what is actually happening right now, instead of what might happen later. Right now is certain. Right now is knowable. Right now you can breathe. You can feel your body. You can notice what is around you. You can take one action that is within your control. The future is uncertain. The future will always be uncertain. But right now is happening, and right now is enough. David eventually learned this. His health anxiety did not disappear. His brain still tried to create certainty through worry, but he got better at recognizing it. He got better at redirecting his attention. He got better at tolerating the discomfort of not knowing without making it worse. When new health concerns came up, and they did, he could face them without spiraling. He could wait for results without suffering through elaborate worst-case scenarios. He could live his life even when uncertainty was present, because uncertainty is always present. Learning to be okay with that is learning to be okay with life. Chapter 4. The Cost of Attachment. Jennifer spent 3 years in a relationship that made her miserable. Her boyfriend was unreliable. He cancelled plans constantly. He forgot important dates. He was dismissive of her feelings. He never talked about the future. Her friends told her to leave. Her family told her to leave. Deep down, she knew she should leave, but she stayed. Why? Because she was attached to who she hoped he would become. She was attached to the potential she saw in him. She was attached to the idea of them. She was attached to not failing at another relationship. She was attached to the time she had already invested. She was attached to avoiding the discomfort of being alone. This attachment kept her trapped. It kept her accepting less than she deserved. It kept her making excuses for behavior she would never tolerate from anyone else. It kept her sacrificing her happiness for a fantasy, and it cost her. It cost her peace. It cost her self-respect. It cost her 3 years. She could have spent finding real love or learning to love herself. Attachment always has a cost. Most people think attachment is the same as caring. It is not. Caring is healthy. Attachment is not. Caring means you value something or someone. Attachment means your peace depends on keeping that thing or person exactly as you want them. Caring is open. Attachment is grasping. Caring allows freedom. Attachment demands control. Caring can let go when necessary. Attachment clings desperately, even when letting go is the right choice. You can care about someone without being attached to them staying. You can care about your job without being attached to keeping it forever. You can care about your health without being attached to never getting sick. You can care about outcomes without being attached to them going exactly as you planned. The difference is freedom. Caring gives you freedom to engage fully while accepting impermanence. Attachment traps you in fear of loss. Think about holding sand in your hand. If you hold it gently with an open palm, the sand stays, but if you squeeze it tightly, trying to hold every grain, it slips through your fingers. The tighter you grip, the more you lose. This is how attachment works. The more desperately you cling, the more suffering you create, not just for yourself, for everyone involved. Attachment shows up everywhere. You are attached to being right, so you cannot admit when you are wrong. You are attached to being liked, so you cannot be authentic. You are attached to looking successful, so you cannot be vulnerable. You are attached to comfort, so you cannot grow. You are attached to your opinions, so you cannot learn. You are attached to how things used to be, so you cannot appreciate how things are. Every attachment is a chain that limits your freedom. The cost of attachment is anxiety. When you are attached to an outcome, you live in constant fear of not getting it. When you are attached to a person, you live in constant fear of losing them. When you are attached to your status or image or possessions, you live in constant fear of them being taken away. This fear colors everything. It makes you controlling, it makes you jealous, it makes you defensive, it makes you unable to be present because you are always worried about the future. Marcus was attached to his identity as the successful one in his family. He had the best job, he made the most money, he lived in the nicest house. This identity felt important, it felt like who he was. When his company downsized and he lost his job, his entire sense of self crumbled. He fell into depression, not because he could not find another job, he had skills and savings, but because his attachment to being the successful one made unemployment feel like a complete failure of identity. Who was he, if he was not the one who had it all figured out? His attachment cost him months of unnecessary suffering. It prevented him from seeing the opportunity in front of him. It prevented him from being honest with his family about his struggle. It prevented him from asking for help. It prevented him from considering career paths that might have been more fulfilling but less impressive. His attachment to an identity kept him trapped in a very small version of who he could be. Attachment also costs you relationships. When you are attached to someone being a certain way, you cannot accept who they actually are. You are constantly disappointed. You are constantly trying to change them. You are constantly frustrated that they are not meeting your expectations. This creates distance. It creates resentment. It creates a relationship based on conditions instead of acceptance. I will love you if you change. I will be happy if you do what I want. I will feel secure if you meet my needs exactly as I imagine. This is not love. This is attachment, and it destroys connection. Jennifer's attachment to her boyfriend becoming different prevented her from seeing him clearly. She loved a fantasy version of him, the version who would suddenly become reliable and attentive and committed. Meanwhile, the real him was showing her exactly who he was through his actions, but she could not see it. Her attachment blinded her. When she finally ended the relationship, she realized she had been in love with potential, not reality. She had wasted years being attached to someone who did not exist. Attachment costs you the present moment. When you are attached to the future being a certain way, you cannot fully experience now. You are always waiting for conditions to be perfect before you allow yourself to be happy. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will relax when this project is done. I will feel secure when I have more money. I will enjoy life when things settle down, but things never settle down. There is always another goal, another milestone, another condition. Attachment to future outcomes keeps you perpetually dissatisfied with what is. Claire was attached to her children, turning out a certain way. She had a clear picture of who they should be. Good students, athletic, popular, successful. When her son struggled in school, she panicked. When her daughter quit soccer, she was devastated. Every deviation from her plan felt like failure. Her attachment made her unable to see her actual children, the real kids in front of her, the ones with their own interests and personalities and paths. She was so focused on the kids she wanted them to be that she missed the kids they were. This attachment cost her connection with her children. They felt her constant disappointment. They felt like they were never enough. They started hiding parts of themselves to avoid her disapproval. The relationship became strained, not because the kids were problems, but because Claire's attachment to a specific outcome made it impossible for her to accept and celebrate who they actually were. When she finally recognized this and let go of her attachment, everything changed. She started enjoying her kids instead of trying to mold them. They started opening up to her instead of hiding. The relationship she actually wanted became possible only when she released her attachment to how it should look. Attachment also costs you opportunities. When you are attached to one specific path, you cannot see alternatives. You miss options that might be better. You stay stuck in situations that no longer serve you, because letting go feels like failure. You say no to possibilities because they do not match your plan. Your attachment keeps you rigid. Life requires flexibility. When you are too attached to how things should go, you break instead of bend. When circumstances change. Robert was attached to his career plan. He had mapped out exactly how his professional life should progress. Specific companies, specific titles, specific timeline. When he was offered a job that did not fit his plan, he almost turned it down automatically. It was not the right company. It was not the right title. It did not match the trajectory he had envisioned. But something made him reconsider. He took the job. It ended up being the best decision of his career. The company was amazing. The work was fulfilling. The connections he made opened doors he never knew existed. His rigid attachment to his plan almost cost him an incredible opportunity. The cost of attachment is also exhaustion. Trying to control outcomes is tiring. Worrying about losing what you are attached to is draining. Managing your image and protecting your identity and forcing things to go your way takes enormous energy. Energy that could be used for actually living, for being creative, for connecting with people, for enjoying what you have, for being present. Attachment turns life into a constant battle. You against the world, you against time, you against reality. This is not sustainable. Think about how much lighter you feel when you let go of something you were holding too tightly. Maybe you finally stopped trying to make a relationship work that was clearly over. Maybe you gave up on trying to control what people thought of you. Maybe you accepted that a situation was not going to change no matter how much you wanted it to. The release is physical. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, you can breathe deeper. This is what life feels like without attachment. Lighter, freer, more open. The opposite of attachment is not indifference. You do not have to stop caring to stop being attached. You can care deeply about people and outcomes while holding them lightly. You can want things to work out while accepting they might not. You can love someone while giving them freedom to be themselves. You can have goals while being open to the path changing. You can value what you have while accepting it is impermanent. This is mature love. This is healthy striving. This is wisdom. Jennifer eventually found this balance. When she started dating again, she caught herself falling into old patterns, analyzing everything, looking for signs and guarantees, trying to predict the future, attaching to potential instead of seeing reality. But this time she recognized it. She practiced letting go. She stayed present with who the person actually was, instead of who she hoped they would become. She enjoyed the relationship without needing it to be forever. She cared without being attached. When it ended, it hurt. But it did not destroy her. She had not built her happiness on a shaky foundation of attachment. She had built it on the solid ground of self-worth and acceptance. This is what you are learning. To care without clinging. To want without needing. To engage without demanding. To love without attaching your peace to specific outcomes. This does not make you cold, it makes you free, free to fully experience life without the constant undercurrent of fear, free to love people as they are instead of as you wish they were, free to pursue goals without your worth depending on achieving them, free to be disappointed without being devastated, free to change course when needed, free to accept what is while still working toward what could be. The cost of attachment is always higher than the cost of letting go. Attachment promises security, but delivers anxiety. It promises control, but delivers frustration. It promises happiness, but delivers conditional peace that disappears the moment things do not go as planned. Letting go feels scary. Your mind will tell you that letting go means giving up, that letting go means you do not care, that letting go means you will lose everything, but this is not true. Letting go of attachment does not mean you stop trying. It means you stop suffering. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop making your peace conditional. It does not mean you accept bad situations. It means you accept reality so you can respond to it effectively instead of fighting it uselessly. Attachment keeps you stuck in resistance. Letting go moves you into acceptance, and acceptance is where your power lives. Claire's children did not suddenly become who she originally wanted them to be. Her son still struggled academically. Her daughter still preferred art to sports. But Claire found peace. She stopped fighting reality. She stopped being attached to a specific picture of success. She started celebrating her children for who they were. Her son was kind and creative. Her daughter was passionate and talented in her own way. These truths had been there all along, but Claire's attachment had blinded her to them. Letting go allowed her to finally see, and seeing allowed her to finally connect. This is the gift on the other side of attachment: connection, presence, peace. You cannot have these things while holding on too tightly. You cannot be present when you are obsessed with the future. You cannot connect authentically when you need people to be different than they are. You cannot find peace when your happiness depends on controlling outcomes. Attachment blocks all of it. Letting go opens all of it. The practice is simple but not easy. Notice when you are attached. You can tell because attachment feels like tightness, like fear, like desperate control. When you notice it, pause. Ask yourself what you are afraid will happen if you let go. Usually the fear is not realistic. Usually the fear is that you will lose something, that you will be diminished somehow, that you will be vulnerable. Examine this fear. Is it true? What would actually happen if you released your grip? Most of the time you would be fine, more than fine. You would be free, free from the constant anxiety of holding on, free from the exhausting effort of trying to control what you cannot, free to experience life as it actually is, instead of constantly comparing it to how you think it should be. This freedom is worth more than whatever you think you might lose by letting go. This freedom is the peace you have been looking for, and it has been available all along, right on the other side of your attachments. Chapter 5. Accepting what is. It was raining on Karen's wedding day. Not a light drizzle, a torrential downpour. Thunder, lightning, the whole dramatic scene. She had planned an outdoor ceremony. She had dreamed about it for months. The garden, the sunset, the photos under the oak tree. Now it was all ruined, or so she thought. For the first hour after she woke up and saw the rain, Karen was devastated. She cried. She raged at the weather app as if it had personally betrayed her. She called the venue asking if there was any chance the rain would stop. She refreshed the forecast obsessively. She considered postponing. She felt like the universe was conspiring against her happiness. This was supposed to be the perfect day, and it was ruined. Then something shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was her maid of honor, sitting her down and talking sense into her. Maybe it was seeing her fiancé who did not care about the weather at all. But Karen stopped fighting. She accepted the rain, not because she liked it, not because she wanted it, but because it was happening, and no amount of anger or disappointment or resistance was going to change it. The rain was real. Her fight against it was optional. Once she accepted it, everything changed. They moved the ceremony inside. It was actually more intimate, more cozy. The sound of rain on the roof became romantic instead of tragic. The photos by the window with rain streaming down turned out stunning. The whole day had a different energy, warm, present, real. People still talk about that wedding, not because it was perfect, but because it was beautiful, in an unexpected way, because Karen let it be what it was, instead of mourning what it was not. This is acceptance, not passive resignation, not giving up, not pretending you like something you do not like. Acceptance is acknowledging reality. It is seeing what is actually happening and stopping your internal war against it. It is the difference between saying this should not be happening and saying this is happening. That shift changes everything. Most people think acceptance means approval. It does not. You can accept something without liking it. You can accept something without wanting it to continue. You can accept something while actively working to change it. Acceptance is about the present moment. What is happening right now is real. Fighting that reality does not change it. It just adds suffering on top of circumstances that might already be difficult. Think about physical pain. Maybe you have a headache. You have two choices. You can resist the pain. You can tense up against it. You can be angry about it. You can catastrophize about what it might mean. You can obsess over why it is happening. Or you can accept it. Yes, I have a headache right now. This is what is happening. You can take medicine. You can rest. You can do what you can to address it. But the resistance, the mental fight against the fact that your head hurts, that only makes it worse. The pain is the same, but your suffering around the pain is optional. Acceptance works the same way for everything. Your partner said something that hurt your feelings. You can resist this reality. You can replay it over and over. You can build resentment. You can create stories about what it means. You can torture yourself with it, or you can accept it. They said this thing. It happened. I feel hurt. Now what do I do with this reality? Do I talk to them about it? Do I let it go? Do I set a boundary? Acceptance does not mean you do nothing. It means you stop fighting what already happened so you can respond effectively. Thomas lost his job. He spent weeks in denial and resistance. This should not have happened. I worked so hard. They should have appreciated me more. This is not fair. I do not deserve this. All of this might have been true, but none of it changed the fact that he no longer had a job. His resistance kept him stuck. He could not move forward because he was too busy fighting the reality of his situation. He could not apply for new jobs because he was too angry about losing the old one. He could not see opportunities because he was too focused on the injustice. When he finally accepted it, things started moving. He stopped arguing with reality. Yes, I lost my job. Yes, it feels unfair. Yes, I am disappointed. And it still happened. Now what? Acceptance freed up all the energy he had been using to resist. He redirected that energy toward finding something new, toward updating his resume, toward reaching out to contacts, toward considering what he actually wanted, instead of just mourning what he lost. Acceptance was not giving up. It was the beginning of moving forward. Acceptance is particularly hard when it comes to things you cannot change about yourself. Maybe you have a chronic illness. Maybe you have anxiety or depression. Maybe you are shorter than you want to be, or older than you feel. Maybe you have scars or disabilities or limitations. Fighting these realities is exhausting. Wishing you were different does not make you different. It just makes you miserable. Acceptance does not mean you stop trying to improve or manage or adapt. It means you stop torturing yourself with the fantasy that you should be something other than what you are. Melissa had chronic pain. For years she fought it. She was angry about it. She resented it. She felt victimized by it. Why me? This is not fair. I should not have to deal with this. Her resistance made the pain worse. The more she fought it, the more it consumed her. She could not enjoy anything because she was always battling her own body. She could not be present because she was always wishing things were different. When she started practicing acceptance, her experience changed. The pain did not go away, but her relationship with it changed. Yes, I have pain today. This is my reality. What can I still do? What can I still enjoy? How can I work with my body instead of against it? Acceptance gave her freedom. Not freedom from the pain, freedom from the constant internal war. She started living again. Not the life she had imagined, the life that was actually available to her, and it turned out to be richer than she expected once she stopped fighting it. Acceptance is also crucial for relationships. People are who they are. You can influence them, you can communicate with them, you can set boundaries, but you cannot fundamentally change them. When you accept this, you save yourself enormous suffering. You stop trying to make your partner more like you imagined. You stop waiting for your parents to finally understand you. You stop expecting your friends to meet needs they are not capable of meeting. You see people clearly, and you make choices based on reality instead of hope. This does not mean you stay in bad situations. Acceptance sometimes leads to leaving, but it is a clean leaving, not resentful, not bitter, not stuck in the story of how things should have been different, just clear. This person is not capable of the relationship I need. This job is not aligned with my values. This city is not where I want to be. Acceptance allows you to see clearly and act decisively instead of staying stuck in resistance and hope. Anna accepted that her mother was never going to be the warm, supportive parent she wanted. This was painful, but the acceptance freed her. She stopped hoping every interaction would be different. She stopped being devastated when her mother was critical. She adjusted her expectations. She found maternal support in other relationships. She stopped letting her mother's limitations define her worth. Acceptance did not fix the relationship, but it freed Anna from the constant disappointment of fighting against who her mother actually was. The practice of acceptance is moment to moment. Something happens. Your immediate reaction might be resistance. No, this should not be. Why is this happening? This is wrong. That reaction is normal. Notice it. Then gently shift. This is what is happening right now. I do not have to like it. I just have to acknowledge it. What do I do with this reality? Sometimes acceptance comes easily. The rain on your wedding day, traffic, a delayed flight. These things are clearly outside your control. Fighting them is obviously pointless. But sometimes acceptance is harder. When someone betrays you, when you fail at something important, when your body gets sick, when someone you love dies, these things feel like they should not be real. The resistance feels justified. How can I accept something so wrong? But resistance does not change what happened. It just keeps you stuck in the trauma of it. Acceptance does not mean you think it is okay. It means you acknowledge it is real, so you can begin to heal. Yes, this terrible thing happened. Yes, it should not have. Yes, it hurts. And it is real. Fighting the reality of it does not undo it. It just prevents you from moving through it. Grief is a powerful teacher of acceptance. When someone dies, you cannot bring them back. No amount of denial changes this. The only path forward is through acceptance. They are gone. This is devastating, and it is true. Acceptance allows grief to flow instead of getting stuck in resistance. It allows you to honor what was, while acknowledging what is. It allows you to eventually find meaning and peace without erasing the loss. Acceptance also applies to your emotions. You feel what you feel. Resisting your emotions does not make them go away. It makes them stronger. You cannot think your way out of sadness. You cannot logic your way out of anxiety. You cannot shame your way out of anger. These emotions are happening. Fighting them just adds suffering. Accepting them allows them to move through you. You are anxious right now. Okay, this is what anxiety feels like. Tight chest, racing thoughts, restlessness. I do not have to make it go away immediately. I can let it be here while I do what I need to do. This acceptance paradoxically reduces the anxiety, because anxiety about anxiety is what makes it unbearable. When you stop resisting the feeling, it loses its power. The same applies to physical sensations. You are tired, you can fight it, drink more coffee, push through, shame yourself for not having more energy. Or you can accept it. I am tired today. Maybe I need rest. Maybe I need to adjust my expectations. Fighting exhaustion with resistance just makes you more exhausted. Accepting it allows you to respond appropriately. Acceptance does not mean passivity. This is the biggest misunderstanding. People think acceptance means you stop trying to improve things. It does not. Acceptance is about acknowledging what is true right now, so you can take effective action. You cannot change what you refuse to see. You cannot fix what you will not acknowledge. Acceptance is the starting point for any real change. If you want to lose weight, you have to accept your current weight, not shame yourself about it, not pretend it is not real, Not stay in denial. Accept it. This is where I am. Now I can make choices from this reality. If you want to improve a relationship, you have to accept its current state. Not what you wish it was, not what it used to be, what it actually is right now. Then you can work with reality instead of fighting it. Acceptance also brings peace. When you stop fighting what is, you free up enormous amounts of energy that was going into resistance and denial and wishful thinking. That energy becomes available for actually living, for being present, for enjoying what you have instead of mourning what you do not, for taking action instead of spinning in complaint. Karen's wedding was not the outdoor ceremony she planned, but it was beautiful because she accepted what was and made the most of it. Thomas did not get to keep his job, but he found a better one because he accepted what happened and moved forward. Melissa still has chronic pain, but she has a life she loves because she accepted her reality and built a life within it instead of waiting for the reality to change. This is the power of acceptance, not to make hard things disappear, but to free you from the additional suffering of fighting reality. The situation is what it is. Your resistance to it is optional. When you drop the resistance, you might be surprised at what becomes possible. Not because circumstances change, but because you stop wasting energy fighting what already is and start using that energy to engage with life as it actually exists. The practice starts now. What in your life are you resisting? What are you fighting against that you cannot change? What reality are you refusing to see? Notice it. You do not have to like it. You just have to stop pretending it is not real. This is what is. Now what will you do with it? That question is where your power lives, not in changing the unchangeable, but in accepting what is and choosing your response from there. Chapter 6. The Power of Letting Go. Brian carried a grudge for 7 years. His business partner had betrayed him, taken credit for Brian's ideas, pushed him out of the company they built together, made off with most of the profits. It was unfair, it was wrong, it was infuriating, and Brian could not let it go. He replayed the betrayal constantly. He imagined confrontations that would never happen. He fantasized about revenge. He told the story to anyone who would listen. He checked his former partner's social media obsessively, seething at every success. He let the anger fuel him. He thought holding on to it kept him strong. He thought letting go would mean the betrayal was okay. He thought his anger was justified and therefore worth keeping. But the grudge was destroying him, not his former partner. Him. The betrayal happened 7 years ago, but Brian was still living it every single day. His former partner had moved on, built a new company, probably rarely thought about Brian at all. Meanwhile, Brian was stuck, poisoned by his own refusal to let go. He could not build anything new because he was too focused on what was taken. He could not trust new partners because he was still angry at the old one. He could not be present with his family because he was trapped in the past. The grudge cost him 7 years of his life, and it changed nothing about what happened. When he finally let it go, it was not because he decided the betrayal was okay. It was not because he forgave his former partner. It was because he realized the grudge was hurting only him. Holding on to it was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The anger felt powerful, but it was actually making him powerless, stuck, unable to move forward, unable to create anything new, unable to be free. Letting go gave him his life back. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually. He stopped checking social media. He stopped telling the story. He stopped rehearsing imaginary confrontations. He redirected that energy toward building something new, toward being present with people who actually cared about him, toward healing instead of festering. The betrayal still happened, but it stopped happening over and over in his mind. It became something that occurred in the past, instead of something that consumed his present. This is the power of letting go. Not to erase what happened, not to pretend it did not hurt, not to absolve people of wrongdoing, but to free yourself from carrying it forward, to stop letting the past dictate your present, to reclaim the energy you are using to hold on to something that is already gone. People hold on to many things: past hurts, old resentments, grudges, regrets, mistakes, failed relationships, lost opportunities, versions of themselves they used to be, dreams that did not work out, people who left, outcomes they wanted but did not get. Each thing you hold on to is weight you carry. Each one takes energy. Each one keeps part of you stuck in a moment that no longer exists. Letting go feels dangerous. Your mind tells you that letting go means you do not care, that you are weak, that you are letting people off the hook, that you are giving up, that you will be vulnerable if you stop protecting yourself with anger or bitterness or control. But holding on is what actually makes you vulnerable. Holding on keeps you trapped, keeps you powerless, keeps you defined by what happened instead of who you are becoming. Think about carrying a heavy backpack. At first it is manageable, but if you never take it off, it becomes unbearable. Your shoulders ache, your back hurts, you cannot move freely, you cannot run, you cannot dance, you cannot embrace people fully because your arms are holding the straps. This is what holding on to the past does. It weighs you down, it limits your movement, it prevents you from fully engaging with the present. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a practice. You let go. Then the thought comes back. You let go again. The memory resurfaces. You let go again. The anger flares up. You let go again. Over and over. Each time gets a little easier. Each time the grip loosens slightly. Each time you prove to yourself that you can survive without holding on, that you are safe even without the armor of resentment, that you are strong enough to release what no longer serves you. Monica held on to the image of who she was before she had kids. She was fit. She was spontaneous. She had hobbies. She had freedom. After kids, everything changed. Her body changed. Her schedule changed. Her priorities changed. She mourned her old self constantly. She resented her new reality. She felt like she had lost herself. This resentment made her miserable. She could not enjoy motherhood because she was too busy grieving who she used to be. Letting go did not mean she stopped caring about herself. It meant she stopped fighting the reality of who she was now. She was a mother. Her body had created life. Her priorities had shifted. This was not better or worse than before. It was just different. When she let go of her old identity, she could create a new one, a mother who also took care of herself, a woman whose body told a story of strength, not loss, a person who could find joy in this season of life, instead of constantly comparing it to the last one. Letting go also applies to control. You hold on to the illusion that if you just worry enough, plan enough, or try hard enough, you can control outcomes, but you cannot. The more tightly you grip, the more you suffer. Letting go of control does not mean you become passive. It means you do what you can and release your grip on results. You plant seeds, you water them, you provide good soil and sunlight, then you let them grow. You cannot force them. You cannot control exactly how they will turn out. You can only tend to them and trust the process. James held on to the need to control how his adult children lived their lives. He had opinions about their careers, their relationships, their choices, their lifestyles. He gave unsolicited advice constantly. He worried obsessively about their decisions. He tried to steer them in directions he thought were best. This damaged his relationships with them. They pulled away. They stopped sharing with him. They felt judged instead of supported. His control was creating the exact distance he feared. Letting go meant accepting that they were adults. They would make their own choices. Some of those choices he would disagree with. Some might even lead to pain or failure. But they were not his to control. His job was to love them, to be available if they needed him, to support them even when he did not understand. When he let go of control, the relationships healed. His kids started calling more, started sharing more, because they felt accepted instead of managed. Letting go brought them closer, not further away. Letting go of outcomes is particularly challenging. You work hard on something, you want it to succeed, you need it to go a certain way. This attachment creates suffering because you cannot guarantee outcomes. You can control your effort, your preparation, your choices, but not results. When you let go of needing specific outcomes, you free yourself to do your best without the paralysis of fear. You can take risks, you can try new things, you can put yourself out there, because your peace is not dependent on winning. It is based on showing up fully and letting the chips fall where they may. Athletes understand this. The ones who perform best are often the ones who care deeply but are not attached to winning. They focus on their performance, their preparation, their effort. They want to win, but their identity is not destroyed if they lose. This paradoxically makes them more likely to succeed, because they are not tight, not frozen by fear, not paralyzed by the pressure of needing a specific outcome. They are free to perform at their best because they have let go of controlling the result. Letting go also means releasing the story you tell yourself about what things mean. You failed at something, your mind creates a story. This means I am a failure. I will never succeed. I should give up. But failure is just information. It is feedback. It does not define you unless you hold on to the story that it does. Let go of the story. Keep the lesson. Move forward. Someone rejected you. Your mind creates a story. This means I am not good enough. I am unlovable. Something is wrong with me. But rejection is just incompatibility. It is two people not being right for each other. It says nothing about your worth unless you hold on to the story that it does. Let go of the story. Keep the experience. Stay open to connection. Things did not go as planned. Your mind creates a story. This means life is against me. Nothing works out. I am unlucky. But plans change. Life is unpredictable. Unexpected does not mean bad. It just means different from what you imagined. Let go of the story. Stay curious about what is actually unfolding. Trust that there might be something good in the deviation, even if you cannot see it yet. The stories you hold on to shape your reality more than the actual events. Two people can experience the same situation and have completely different lives based on the stories they tell themselves about it. One holds on to victimhood, the other holds on to resilience. One holds on to bitterness, the other holds on to growth. One holds on to what was lost, the other holds on to what was learned. The situation is identical, the stories create completely different futures. Letting go is an act of self-compassion. You are releasing yourself from the prison of the past. You are giving yourself permission to move forward. You are choosing freedom over familiarity. You are deciding that your peace matters more than your story. You are brave enough to put down what is heavy, even though it has become comfortable to carry. It feels strange at first. You have held on to these things for so long that they feel like part of you. Letting them go feels like losing something. But you are not losing anything real. You are losing weight. You are losing chains. You are losing what was keeping you small and stuck and suffering. What you gain is space, energy, freedom, the ability to be present, the capacity to create something new, the lightness of not carrying the past everywhere you go. Some things are harder to let go than others. Grief over loss, trauma from abuse, deep wounds that shaped you. These require gentleness. You do not have to let go all at once. You do not have to pretend it did not matter. You honor what happened. You acknowledge the pain. And then, slowly, you loosen your grip. Not because it stops being important, but because holding on to it so tightly is preventing you from healing. You can remember without reliving. You can honor without being consumed. You can acknowledge without being defined. Sarah lost her sister to cancer. The grief was overwhelming. For years she held on to it with everything she had. She visited the grave weekly. She kept her sister's room exactly as it was. She talked about her constantly. She felt like letting go would mean forgetting, would mean her sister did not matter, would mean moving on was a betrayal. But the holding on was destroying her. She could not enjoy anything because she felt guilty being happy. She could not be present with her living family because she was so focused on her dead sister. The grief had become her identity. Letting go did not mean forgetting her sister. It meant choosing to live again. It meant honoring her sister by being present for life instead of trapped in death. It meant carrying her sister in her heart instead of carrying the grief on her back. When she let go, the grief did not disappear, but it changed shape. It became softer, sweeter, a tender remembrance instead of a crushing weight. She could think about her sister and smile instead of only cry. She could share memories without being destroyed by them. She could be grateful for the time they had instead of only angry about the time they lost. This is the power of letting go. Not to erase, not to diminish, not to forget, but to transform, to take what was heavy and allow it to become light, to take what was sharp and allow it to become smooth, to take what was consuming and allow it to become integrated. You do not lose what mattered. You change your relationship with it. You stop letting it control you. You hold it gently instead of desperately. You carry it with you instead of being buried under it. The practice is simple. Notice what you are holding on to. Ask yourself honestly if holding on to it is serving you. Not whether you were justified in picking it up, but whether it is serving you now to keep carrying it. If the answer is no, practice putting it down, not all at once, not perfectly, just a little bit at a time. Each time it comes back up, practice releasing it again. Each time the story starts playing, practice changing the channel. Each time the grip tightens, practice loosening it. You will resist this. Your mind will tell you that you need these things, that letting go is dangerous, that holding on keeps you safe. But this is not true. What you are holding on to is keeping you stuck. Letting go is what sets you free. Free to be here now. Free to create something new. Free to move forward. Free to live. Chapter 7. Living in the present moment. Emma was having dinner with her best friend. They had not seen each other in months. They were at her favorite restaurant. The food was delicious. The conversation should have been engaging, but Emma was not really there. Her body was at the table. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. She was thinking about the email she needed to send tomorrow. She was worrying about whether she had locked her car. She was replaying an argument with her mother from last week. She was planning what she would say at her meeting on Friday. She was remembering an embarrassing moment from high school. She was imagining worst-case scenarios about her upcoming medical appointment. She was mentally writing her grocery list. She was anywhere and everywhere except right here, right now, with her friend. Her friend was talking about something important. Emma nodded at the right moments. She made appropriate sounds, but she had no idea what was actually being said. When her friend later referenced the conversation, Emma had to pretend she remembered. She had missed it completely. Not because she did not care, but because she was not present. She was lost in her thoughts about past and future. Meanwhile, the only moment that actually existed, the present moment, passed her by unnoticed. This is how most people live, physically in one place, mentally in 1,000 others, always thinking about what happened or what might happen, never fully here, never fully experiencing the only moment they actually have. The present moment is where life happens. Everything else is just thoughts about life, memories of life, projections about life, but life itself only exists right now. The past is gone. It exists only in your memory. Your memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, you are actually recreating it, coloring it with current emotions and interpretations. The past you remember is not even the past that actually happened. It is your current story about the past. Spending your present moment replaying the past is like watching a movie about your life instead of actually living it. You cannot change what happened. You can only change what you do right now. The future has not happened. It exists only in your imagination. Your imagination is not a crystal ball. It is mostly anxiety and fantasy. The scenarios you create rarely match what actually unfolds. Planning is useful. Preparation is smart. But obsessing about the future is like trying to solve a puzzle without knowing what the picture looks like. You cannot control what has not happened yet. You can only make choices right now that influence it. Right now is the only moment you have any power in. Right now is where you can actually do something. Right now is where you can make a choice. Right now is where you can take action. Right now is where you can experience joy, or connection, or peace. But most people miss it completely. They are too busy living in their heads. Daniel sat through his daughter's dance recital, thinking about work. He took photos but did not actually watch her dance. He was present in body but absent in attention. Years later, he has photos of that recital, but he has no memory of it. He missed it, not because he was not there, but because he was not present. His daughter had that moment once. He could have shared it with her. Instead, he was thinking about a deadline that probably does not even matter anymore. The moment is gone. He cannot get it back. This is the cost of not being present. You miss your life. You miss connections. You miss beauty. You miss joy. You miss the tiny moments that actually make up a life. The big moments are rare. The present moments are constant. But you cannot experience them if you are always somewhere else in your mind. Being present is simple, but not easy. Your mind does not want to stay here. It wants to wander. It wants to plan and worry, and remember, and imagine. This is what minds do. The practice is not to stop your mind from wandering. That is impossible. The practice is to notice when it has wandered and gently bring it back, over and over, all day long. This is the work. Start with your breath. You are always breathing. Your breath is always happening right now. You cannot breathe in the past. You cannot breathe in the future. Breath only exists in the present moment. When you notice your mind has wandered into past or future, bring your attention to your breath. Feel the air coming in. Feel the air going out. This simple act brings you back to now. Your body is also always in the present. Your thoughts can be anywhere, but your body is always right here. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your clothes against your skin. Feel the temperature of the air. Notice any tension or relaxation in your muscles. This anchors you in the present moment. Your body cannot be anywhere else. When you connect with your body, you connect with now. Your senses are always experiencing the present. What do you see right now? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel physically? These sensory experiences are only available right now. When you engage your senses, you engage with the present moment. The past has no sounds. The future has no smells. Only now has actual sensory input. Emma started practicing presence. At first it was hard. Her mind wandered constantly. She would try to be present and within seconds find herself lost in thought. But she kept practicing. When she noticed her mind had wandered, she did not judge herself. She just came back. Breath, body, senses, over and over. Gradually, it got easier. She started having moments of real presence, real connection, real experience. She had coffee with a friend and actually tasted the coffee, actually heard what her friend was saying, actually felt the warmth of the cup in her hands. She took a walk and noticed the trees, the birds, the feeling of her muscles moving. She had dinner with her family and was actually there, participating, listening, engaging. Life started feeling richer, not because anything external changed, but because she was finally showing up for it. Most people think being present means sitting still and meditating. It does not. You can be present while doing anything: washing dishes, driving, working, talking, eating, walking. Any activity can be done with presence or without it. The difference is attention. Are you here with this activity, or is your mind somewhere else while your body goes through the motions? Washing dishes can be meditation. Feel the water, feel the soap. Notice the texture of each dish. Pay attention to the movements of your hands. This is presence. Or you can wash dishes while thinking about everything else, rushing through to get to the next thing. Same activity, completely different experience. Driving can be presence. Notice the road, the steering wheel under your hands, the other cars, the scenery passing by. Be here with the act of driving, or you can drive on autopilot, arriving at your destination with no memory of how you got there, because your mind was entirely elsewhere. Same commute, completely different experience. Conversations can be presence. Listen to the actual words being said. Notice the other person's expressions. Feel your own reactions. Be here with this human connection. Or you can be thinking about what you will say next, judging what they are saying, planning your response, waiting for your turn to talk. Same conversation, completely different level of connection. The present moment is where peace lives. You cannot be anxious about the future if you are fully in the present. Anxiety requires projection. It requires imagining what might go wrong. When you are truly present, there is no anxiety. There might be challenge, there might be difficulty, but anxiety is about what is not happening yet. Presence eliminates it. You cannot be depressed about the past if you are fully in the present. Depression often comes from ruminating on what was or what should have been. When you are truly present, there is no depression about the past. There might be sadness, there might be grief, but depression about what happened requires leaving the present moment. Presence brings you back. This does not mean you never think about past or future. Planning is necessary. Learning from the past is wise, but there is a difference between using your mind to think about these things intentionally and being hijacked by thoughts about them constantly. You can spend 10 minutes planning your week, then return to the present. You can spend time processing a past event, then return to the present. The problem is not thinking about past or future. The problem is living there instead of here. Marcus noticed he was most unhappy when his mind was furthest from the present, when he was stuck in regret about past decisions, when he was worried about future outcomes, when he was comparing his life to others, when he was lost in fantasy. These mental states all required him to leave now, and leaving now always cost him peace. When he practiced staying present, his baseline happiness increased, not because his circumstances improved, but because he stopped making himself miserable with thoughts. The present moment, even when challenging, was manageable. It was the thoughts about past and future that created suffering. Real problems he could handle, imaginary problems, of which there were infinite, he could not. Being present also deepens relationships. When you are truly present with someone, they feel it, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued. This creates real connection. But when you are physically there but mentally elsewhere, people feel it too. They feel dismissed. They feel like they do not matter. They feel like you are just going through the motions. Presence is a gift you give to others and to yourself. Children are masters of presence. Watch a child play. They are completely absorbed, totally here, not thinking about what happened yesterday or what will happen tomorrow, just fully engaged with right now. This is why children can find joy in simple things: a cardboard box, a puddle, a funny sound. They are present enough to experience these things fully. Adults have lost this ability, not because they cannot do it, but because they have trained themselves to always be somewhere else mentally. You can relearn presence. You already know how. You did it naturally as a child. You have just covered it up with layers of thought and worry and planning and remembering. But it is still there. The ability to be fully here, fully alive, fully engaged with this moment, the only moment you actually have. The practice is not about achieving perfect presence. You will never stop thinking. Your mind will always wander. This is normal. This is what minds do. The practice is noticing when you have left the present and choosing to return. This is a moment-by-moment practice, not a destination you arrive at once and stay forever. You are reading this right now, or listening to it. Where is your mind? Is it here with these words? Or has it wandered to what you need to do later, to something that happened earlier, to judgment about whether this information is useful? Notice, this noticing is the practice. Then return. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Be here with these words. This is presence. Throughout your day, you will have thousands of opportunities to practice. Waiting in line, sitting in traffic, eating a meal, taking a shower, walking to your car. Each of these moments is an opportunity. You can be somewhere else in your mind, making yourself suffer with thoughts, or you can be here, experiencing this moment. The moment is happening whether you show up for it or not. Showing up is your choice. Presence does not require special circumstances. You do not need to be on vacation. You do not need everything to be perfect. You do not need to have free time. You can be present right now, exactly as things are. Presence is not about the external conditions. It is about where you place your attention, and you can place your attention here, in this moment, anytime you choose. Emma's life did not change dramatically when she started being more present. She still had the same job, the same relationships, the same challenges, but her experience of life changed completely. She was actually living it instead of thinking about it. She was connecting with people instead of just being near them. She was enjoying small moments instead of rushing through them to get to the next thing. She felt more alive, more grateful, more at peace, not because anything external shifted, but because she finally showed up for her own life. This is available to you right now. Not someday when things are better, not after you fix all your problems, not when you have more time, right now. This moment, this breath, this experience, this is your life. Are you here for it? Or are you somewhere else, missing it while it happens. The choice is yours, and it is always available, right here, right now. Chapter 8. Trusting the process. Rachel planted tomatoes in her garden. She prepared the soil, she planted the seeds, she watered them, then she waited. Every day she checked on them. Where are the sprouts? Why is nothing happening? Did I do something wrong? Maybe I should dig them up and check. Maybe I should add more fertilizer. Maybe I should water them more. Maybe I should plant new seeds. Her anxiety about the process almost made her ruin it. Her neighbor, an experienced gardener, saw her fretting. He smiled and said something simple but profound. You did your part. Now trust the process. The seeds know what to do. They will sprout when they are ready. Your job is not to control every step. Your job is to create the right conditions and then let nature do its work. Digging them up to check will kill them. Overwatering will drown them. Trust the process. Rachel did not like this advice. She wanted to do something. She wanted to control the outcome. She wanted guarantees, but she had no choice. She could not force the seeds to sprout faster. She could not micromanage underground growth. She could not even see. She had to trust. A week later, tiny green shoots emerged. 2 months later, she had tomatoes. The process worked exactly as it was supposed to, not on her anxious timeline, on its own natural timeline. This is what trusting the process means. You do what you can. You create the conditions. You take the actions within your control. Then you let go. You trust that things will unfold as they need to, not necessarily as you want, not necessarily on your schedule, but in their own time and their own way. Fighting the process does not speed it up. It just makes you miserable while it happens. Most people struggle with this because trusting the process requires giving up control. It requires accepting that you cannot force outcomes. It requires patience. It requires faith that things will work out even when you cannot see how. It requires sitting with uncertainty. It requires doing your part and then stepping back instead of desperately trying to manage every detail. This goes against everything your controlling mind wants. Your mind wants to know how things will turn out before you commit. It wants guarantees. It wants to be able to see the whole path before taking the first step. It wants to eliminate risk and uncertainty and doubt. But life does not work that way. You take the step, then the next step appears. You plant the seed, then nature does its work. You do your part, then you trust. The process unfolds in its own time. Kevin wanted to get in shape. He started working out. He ate better. He was consistent for 2 whole weeks. Then he got on the scale and was devastated. Only 2 pounds lost. At this rate it would take forever. Maybe this was not working. Maybe he should try a different program. Maybe his body was broken. Maybe he should just give up. He did not trust the process. He wanted immediate results. He wanted to see the finish line from the starting line. When he did not, he quit. 6 months later, he tried again. This time someone told him to trust the process. Do the work. Be consistent. Stop obsessing over the scale. Your body knows what to do. Give it time. This time Kevin focused on the daily actions instead of the end result. He worked out. He ate well. He did not weigh himself constantly. He just trusted. 3 months in, his clothes fit differently. He felt stronger. He had energy. The process was working, not on his impatient timeline, on the actual timeline required for real change. When he finally weighed himself, he had lost 30 pounds. The process worked. It just needed time and trust. Trusting the process is essential for anything meaningful. Relationships do not deepen overnight. Careers do not build in a week. Skills do not develop in a day. Healing does not happen instantly. Growth takes time. The process has its own rhythm. Your anxiety about the pace does not speed it up. It just makes the journey miserable. Trust allows you to do the work without being consumed by when you will see results. This does not mean you blindly continue something that is not working. Trust is not the same as denial. You pay attention, you assess, you adjust, but you do it from a place of patience rather than panic. You give things time to work before deciding they are not working. You understand that progress is not always visible. Seeds grow underground before they break through the soil. Just because you cannot see change does not mean nothing is happening. Maria started therapy. She went every week. She talked about her issues. She did the work. But after a month, she felt the same. Nothing had changed. She was still anxious, still depressed, still struggling. She almost quit. Her therapist asked her to trust the process. Healing is not linear. You are doing deeper work than you realize. The changes are happening even if you cannot see them yet. Keep going. Maria decided to trust. She kept showing up. She kept doing the work. 3 months in, something shifted. She could not pinpoint exactly when or how, but she realized she was handling things differently. She was less reactive, more aware, more compassionate with herself. The panic attacks were less frequent. The depression was lifting. The process had been working all along. She just could not see it in the moment. She needed time and trust. Trusting the process also means accepting that you cannot skip steps. You want the outcome without the work, the fitness without the workouts, the success without the failure, the wisdom without the lessons, the relationship without the vulnerability. But processes have necessary steps. Each one matters. Each one builds on the last. Trying to skip ahead is like trying to harvest before you plant. It does not work. Trust means doing each step, even when you cannot see how it connects to the end result. James wanted to write a book. He had a great idea, but when he sat down to write, he was overwhelmed. He did not know how to structure it. He did not know where to start. He wanted to have a finished book, without going through the messy process of writing it. He wanted to skip from idea to publication, but there is no shortcut. The process is, write badly first, edit, rewrite, edit again, get feedback, revise, repeat, over and over. Trust the process. When James finally accepted this, writing became easier, not because the process changed, but because he stopped fighting it. He wrote messy first drafts, he edited them, he rewrote sections multiple times, he trusted that each step, even the frustrating ones, were necessary. A year later, he had a finished book, not because he found a shortcut, but because he trusted the process and did each step. Trusting the process requires surrendering your timeline. You want things to happen when you want them, but the process has its own timing. A baby takes 9 months to grow. You cannot rush it. A tree takes years to mature. You cannot force it. Healing takes however long it takes. You cannot demand it happen faster. Your impatience does not accelerate the process. It just makes you suffer while you wait. This is particularly hard in a culture that values speed. Everything is supposed to be instant. Instant results, instant gratification, instant success. But real things take time. Meaningful things unfold slowly. Substantial changes require patience. The process cannot be rushed. Fighting this reality creates frustration. Accepting it creates peace. Laura wanted to find a partner. She was tired of being alone. She wanted it to happen now. She went on dates frantically. She forced connections. She tried to rush intimacy. She was desperate for the outcome. This desperation repelled people. It created pressure. It prevented anything real from developing. She was sabotaging the very thing she wanted by refusing to trust the process. When she finally slowed down, things changed. She stopped trying to force a timeline. She went on dates to see if there was compatibility, not to lock someone down immediately. She let things unfold naturally. She trusted that the right person would show up at the right time. This shift in energy made her more attractive, more relaxed, more authentic. 6 months later, she met someone. The relationship developed slowly, naturally, at its own pace. By trusting the process instead of forcing outcomes, she got what she actually wanted. Trusting the process also means accepting setbacks as part of the process. Progress is not a straight line. There are ups and downs, forward movement and backward slides, good days and bad days. This does not mean the process is not working. It means the process is real. Setbacks are not failures. They are part of how you learn and grow and adjust. Trust means continuing even when it is not going perfectly. Kevin had weeks where he did not lose weight, weeks where he even gained a little. In his first attempt, these setbacks made him quit. In his second attempt, he trusted they were part of the process. Bodies fluctuate. Weight is not the only measure of progress. Plateaus happen. He kept going. The setbacks did not derail him because he understood they were normal. Trust allowed him to stay consistent even when results were not immediate. Trusting the process is ultimately about trusting yourself. You trust that you can handle whatever unfolds. You trust that you will figure things out as you go. You trust that you do not need to see the whole path to take the first step. You trust that you are capable of navigating uncertainty. You trust that doing your part is enough. You trust that you will be okay even if things do not go exactly as planned. This self-trust is what makes detachment possible. You can let go of controlling outcomes because you trust you will handle whatever comes. You can release your grip on certainty because you trust your ability to adapt. You can stop micromanaging every detail because you trust the process and you trust yourself within it. This trust is not blind faith. It is earned through experience. Every time you trust the process and it works out, you build more trust. Every time you handle an unexpected outcome, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Every time you let go and survive, you get stronger. The practice is simple. Do your part. Create the conditions. Take the actions within your control. Then step back. Let the process unfold. Notice when you are trying to force outcomes. Notice when you are demanding things happen on your timeline. Notice when you are anxious about pace. Then consciously choose to trust. Remind yourself that you have done what you can. The rest is not up to you. The process has its own wisdom. Your job is to participate, not to control. Rachel eventually became a confident gardener, not because she learned to control nature, but because she learned to trust it. She plants seeds knowing they will sprout in their own time. She tends to her garden, knowing some plants will thrive and some will not. She has good years and bad years. She does not fight the process anymore. She partners with it. She does her part and lets nature do its part. The anxiety is gone. The desperate need for control is gone. What remains is trust and peace and tomatoes. This is available to you in every area of your life. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to see the whole path. You do not need guarantees. You just need to do your part and trust. Trust that things unfold as they need to. Trust that you can handle what comes. Trust that the process, even when it is uncomfortable or slow or uncertain, is working. Trust that your job is not to control every outcome, but to show up consistently and let the process do its work. This trust is not passive. It is active participation without desperate attachment. It is engaged effort without anxious control. It is doing your best and releasing the rest. This is how you move through life with peace instead of panic. This is how you achieve meaningful things without destroying yourself in the process. This is trusting the process, and it works every time, if you let it. Chapter 9. Responding versus reacting. Tom's boss sent him an email at 8 in the evening. The message was critical. It questioned his work. It implied he had made mistakes. It used a harsh tone. Tom read it and immediately felt his body tense. His heart raced. His face got hot. Anger flooded through him. His fingers flew across the keyboard, typing a defensive response. He explained why his boss was wrong. He listed all the things he had done right. He defended himself aggressively. He hit send before he could stop himself. The moment the email left his outbox, he regretted it. He had reacted, not responded. He had let his emotions drive his behavior. He had said things that would make the situation worse. He had burned a bridge in 30 seconds of triggered fury. Now he had to deal with the consequences. A damaged relationship with his boss, a reputation for being defensive, a situation that was already tense now made explosive, all because he reacted instead of responded. Reacting is automatic. It happens without thought. Something triggers you, and you immediately act from that triggered state. Someone criticizes you, and you defend yourself. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you honk and yell. Someone says something you disagree with, and you argue. Someone hurts you, and you hurt them back. Reaction is fast, emotional, unconscious. It feels justified in the moment, but it almost always makes things worse. Responding is different. Responding requires a pause. It requires awareness. It requires choosing your action instead of being hijacked by emotion. Something happens. You feel the emotion. You notice the urge to react. But instead of acting immediately, you pause, you breathe, you think, you consider what response would actually be helpful. Then you choose. This takes practice. Your brain wants to react. Reacting feels powerful, but responding is where your real power lives. The space between stimulus and response is where freedom exists. Something happens. That is the stimulus. How you handle it is the response. Most people collapse that space. Stimulus and response happen simultaneously. No gap, no choice, just automatic reaction. But when you create space, even just a few seconds, you get choice. You get to decide how you want to handle this. You get to act from your values instead of your triggers. You get to be intentional instead of reactive. Sarah's mother criticized her parenting again. Sarah felt the familiar surge of anger and hurt. Her automatic reaction was to snap back, to defend herself, to criticize her mother in return. This was the pattern they had repeated for years. Criticism, defense, counterattack, more hurt. Nothing ever changed. But this time Sarah paused. She felt the urge to react. She noticed the anger rising, but she did not act on it immediately. She took a breath. She chose differently. Instead of defending or attacking, she said something simple. "I hear that you have concerns. I am doing the best I can." Then she changed the subject. Her mother was surprised. There was nothing to fight against. Sarah had not taken the bait. She had responded instead of reacted. The conversation moved on. No fight, no damage, no hours of stewing afterwards. Sarah felt proud. She had broken the pattern, not by changing her mother, but by changing her own response. The difference between reacting and responding is the difference between being controlled by your circumstances and being in control of yourself. When you react, external events control you. Someone does something, and you automatically do something back. You are a puppet. They pull the string, and you dance. When you respond, you control yourself. Things still happen, people still trigger you, but you choose how you handle it. You are no longer at the mercy of every provocation. This is detachment in action. You are detached from the need to react to every trigger. You are detached from proving yourself right. You are detached from controlling how others behave. You are detached from winning every argument. You are detached from defending every criticism. This detachment gives you freedom. Freedom to choose responses that actually serve you instead of just discharging emotion. Reactions are driven by the primitive part of your brain, the part that developed when humans faced physical threats, the fight or flight response. When you are triggered, this part of your brain activates. It floods you with stress hormones. It shuts down your rational thinking. It prepares you to fight or run. This was useful when facing a predator. It is not useful when facing an annoying email or a critical comment or a rude driver. But your brain does not know the difference. It reacts to perceived threats the same way regardless of whether they are physical or emotional. When you are in this reactive state, you are literally less intelligent. The blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking, decreases. The blood flow to your amygdala, the emotional center, increases. You cannot think clearly. You cannot see options. You cannot consider consequences. You can only react. This is why you say things you regret, why you make decisions that do not make sense later, why you act in ways that contradict your values. You are hijacked. Your thinking brain is offline. Your reactive brain is running the show. Creating space between stimulus and response brings your thinking brain back online. The pause allows the stress response to settle. It allows rational thought to return. It allows you to see clearly, instead of through the distortion of triggered emotion. Even a few seconds makes a huge difference. Count to 10. Take 3 deep breaths. Excuse yourself to the bathroom. Walk around the block. Any pause is better than no pause. Marcus learned this the hard way. He was in a meeting and someone questioned his competence in front of everyone. He reacted immediately. He got defensive. He attacked the other person. He made the whole meeting awkward. Later he realized the question was actually fair. The person was not attacking him. They were legitimately trying to understand. But Marcus had been triggered by the word competence and reacted from that wound. He made himself look insecure and unprofessional, all because he could not pause. Now, when he feels triggered in meetings, he has a rule. He does not speak for at least 30 seconds. He lets others talk. He breathes. He asks himself if he is about to react or respond. This simple practice has changed how people see him. He is known as calm under pressure, thoughtful, measured, not because his emotions changed, but because his behavior changed. He still feels triggered. He just does not act from that triggered state anymore. Responding requires knowing your triggers. What sets you off? Criticism, feeling controlled, being ignored, feeling disrespected, injustice. Everyone has triggers. These are wounds that have not healed. When someone touches a wound, you react. But when you know your wounds, you can watch for them. You can recognize when you are being triggered and pause before acting. Tom knew he was triggered by feeling incompetent. His father had been hypercritical. Nothing was ever good enough. This created a wound. Now any criticism, even constructive feedback, felt like an attack. When his boss sent that email, it hit the wound directly. Tom reacted from the pain of a 40-year-old wound, not from the current situation. When he learned to recognize this trigger, he could pause when it got hit. He could remind himself that not all criticism is an attack. He could separate past pain from present feedback. He could respond to what was actually happening instead of reacting to old wounds. Responding also requires managing your emotional state throughout the day. If you are stressed, tired, hungry, or overwhelmed, you are more likely to react. Your capacity to pause and choose is diminished. This is why you snap at people you love after a hard day, why you make poor decisions when you are exhausted, why everything feels more intense when you are hungry. Your ability to respond instead of react depends partly on your baseline state. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is necessary for being able to show up as your best self. Sleep enough, eat regularly, move your body, take breaks, manage your stress, do things that replenish you. This is not optional if you want to be responsive instead of reactive. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot respond thoughtfully when you are running on fumes. Lisa noticed she was most reactive with her kids in the evening. She was tired. She had been giving all day. She had no patience left. She snapped at them over small things. She reacted to normal kid behavior as if it was a personal attack. She felt terrible about it. When she realized the pattern, she made changes. She built in a transition when she got home. 15 minutes alone to decompress, a healthy snack, a few deep breaths. This small buffer made a huge difference. She was able to respond to her kids instead of react. She was able to be the parent she wanted to be. Responding does not mean suppressing your emotions. It does not mean pretending you are not upset. It does not mean being passive. You can feel angry and choose not to act on the anger in a destructive way. You can feel hurt and still respond with dignity. You can feel frustrated and still be respectful. Responding is not about controlling your feelings. It is about controlling your actions despite your feelings. There is a difference between feeling angry and acting angry. You can acknowledge the anger. I am really angry right now. I need some time before I respond to this. This is responding. Acting angry is yelling, attacking, saying hurtful things, breaking things, storming out. One acknowledges the emotion. The other is controlled by it. Responding gives you options. Reacting gives you regret. Sometimes the best response is no response. Not everything requires your reaction. Someone says something rude. You can respond by not engaging. Someone tries to provoke you. You can respond by walking away. Someone wants to argue. You can respond by refusing to participate. Silence is a response. Disengagement is a response. Not taking the bait is a response. You do not have to react to every provocation. You get to choose what deserves your energy. David's co-worker constantly tried to get him involved in office drama, gossiping about others, complaining about management, creating conflict. David used to engage. He would react to the gossip. He would get pulled into the drama. He would leave conversations feeling drained and dirty. Then he started responding differently. When the co-worker started gossiping, David would say something neutral and change the subject. When the co-worker tried to pull him into complaints, David would excuse himself. He stopped reacting to the bait. The co-worker eventually stopped trying. David had responded by not engaging. This protected his peace and his reputation. Responding requires practice. You will not get it right every time. You will still react sometimes. This is normal. This is human. The practice is not perfection. The practice is increasing the percentage of times you respond instead of react, catching yourself sooner when you are about to react, pausing more often, choosing more consciously. Each time you successfully respond instead of react, you strengthen that neural pathway. Each time you pause, you make pausing easier next time. Each time you choose, you build your capacity to choose. When you do react, and you will, learn from it. What triggered you? What could you do differently next time? What was the cost of reacting? What would responding have looked like? Use your reactions as information. They show you your wounds, your patterns, your triggers. This information is valuable, not for shame, for growth, for doing better next time. Tom eventually apologized to his boss for his reactive email. He explained that he felt defensive and responded poorly. He should have taken time to think before replying. His boss appreciated the apology. The relationship healed. Tom learned the lesson. Now when he gets an email that triggers him, he has a rule. He writes the reactive response, gets it all out, then he deletes it. He waits until the next day. Then he writes the actual response, the one that comes from his values instead of his wounds, the one that solves the problem instead of creating more, the one he will not regret. This is the power of responding instead of reacting. You get to be intentional. You get to act from your best self instead of your wounded self. You get to create the outcomes you actually want instead of the damage that comes from being controlled by your emotions. You get to be free. Free from being jerked around by every trigger, free from being controlled by other people's behavior, free from the exhausting cycle of reaction and regret, free to choose, always, in every moment. This is your power. This is your freedom. This is responding instead of reacting. Chapter 10. Finding Peace in Uncertainty. Nicole sat in the waiting room staring at the door. Behind that door, a panel of interviewers would decide her future. She had prepared for weeks. She had practiced her answers. She had researched the company. She had done everything she could. But now, waiting, she felt like she might throw up. The uncertainty was crushing. What if they did not like her? What if she froze during the interview? What if someone else was better? What if this was not the right opportunity anyway? What if she made a fool of herself? The what-ifs were endless, and they were torture. Then something shifted in her mind. She had a realization. No amount of worrying right now would change what was about to happen. The uncertainty was real. She did not know how this would go. She might get the job. She might not. Both outcomes were possible, and she had zero control over which one would happen. The only thing she could control was this moment, right now, how she spent these last few minutes before walking through that door. She could spend them in anguish, torturing herself with what-ifs, or she could spend them breathing, being present, accepting the uncertainty instead of fighting it. She chose the latter. She closed her eyes. She felt her breath. She acknowledged the fear. Yes, I am scared. Yes, this is uncertain. And I am okay right now. In this moment, I am okay. When she walked into that interview room, she was calmer than she had been in weeks, not because the uncertainty disappeared, but because she stopped fighting it. This is the secret to finding peace in uncertainty. You do not eliminate the uncertainty. That is impossible. Life is fundamentally uncertain. You never know what will happen next. You never have guarantees. You never control outcomes. Fighting this reality creates suffering. Accepting it creates peace, not a passive, defeated peace, an active, alive peace that comes from being okay with not knowing. Most people think they need certainty to feel safe. They need to know how things will turn out before they can relax. They need guarantees before they can commit. They need to see the whole path before they take the first step. But this is backwards. Certainty is an illusion. You never actually have it. Even things that seem certain are not. You could have a job today and lose it tomorrow. You could be healthy today and sick next week. You could be in a relationship today and single next month. Nothing is guaranteed, ever. The peace you are seeking does not come from eliminating uncertainty. It comes from being okay with it. It comes from building your capacity to handle whatever comes instead of needing to know what is coming. It comes from trusting yourself more than you trust predictions. It comes from accepting that life is unpredictable and deciding you can handle that. This is real security, not controlling the future. trusting yourself in the face of an unknowable future. Robert changed careers at 45. He left a stable job with good pay and benefits. He started his own business. Everyone thought he was crazy. They asked him what-if questions. What if it fails? What if you run out of money? What if you regret this? What if you cannot get another job, if this does not work? He could not answer these questions with certainty. He did not know if his business would succeed. He did not know if he would regret it. He did not know anything for sure, but he did it anyway. Not recklessly. He had savings. He had a plan. He had researched. But he still faced enormous uncertainty, and he made peace with it. He told himself a different story than the what-if catastrophes. What if it works? What if this is the best decision I ever make? What if I am capable of more than I think? What if uncertainty is just part of anything worth doing? He chose to be okay with not knowing. He chose to trust the process and trust himself. 5 years later, his business is thriving, but even if it had not worked, he would have been okay, because he had learned to handle uncertainty, and that skill is worth more than any guaranteed outcome. Uncertainty is not the enemy. Your resistance to uncertainty is the enemy. Uncertainty is neutral. It is just the absence of knowing. Your brain treats it like danger, but it is not. It is just uncomfortable. When you can separate discomfort from danger, uncertainty loses its power over you. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You cannot know and still take action. You can lack guarantees and still commit. Think about all the good things in your life, your relationships, your achievements, your growth. Almost all of them required facing uncertainty. You did not know if that person would say yes to a date. You did not know if you would get into that school. You did not know if you could do that challenging thing. You did not know if it would work out, but you did it anyway. You faced the uncertainty and moved through it, and you survived. More than survived. You grew, you learned, you became more capable. The uncertainty was not your enemy. It was the gateway to everything good. Avoiding uncertainty keeps you stuck. You stay in the job you hate because it is certain. You stay in the relationship that does not work because it is familiar. You do not pursue your dreams because the outcome is not guaranteed. You play it safe. You choose the known over the possible. You trade growth for the illusion of security, but that security is false. The job could disappear. The relationship could end. Nothing is actually certain. You just pretend it is to avoid discomfort, and that pretending costs you everything. Amy wanted to write a book. She had the idea, she had the time, but she did not write. Why? Because she did not know if it would be good. She did not know if anyone would read it. She did not know if she could finish it. The uncertainty paralyzed her. What if I spend a year writing, and it is terrible? What if no one cares? What if I fail? These questions kept her from starting. She was waiting for certainty that would never come. The only way to know if she could write a good book was to write it, but she could not write it while demanding to know the outcome first. Finally, she accepted the uncertainty. I do not know if this will be good. I do not know if anyone will read it. I might fail, and I am writing it anyway, because writing it matters more than knowing how it will turn out. The process matters more than the outcome. The growth matters more than the guarantee. She wrote the book. It was hard. It was uncertain every step of the way. She had no idea if it was any good until it was done, but she finished it, and it was good, and people did read it. But even if they had not, she would have been proud, because she faced the uncertainty and did it anyway. Finding peace in uncertainty requires shifting your focus. Stop asking, will this work out? That question has no answer. You cannot know. Ask instead, can I handle this? That question has an answer. Yes, you can. You have handled everything in your life so far. Every uncertainty, every challenge, every unexpected turn. You figured it out. You adapted. You survived. You might not have done it perfectly, but you did it. This track record is what you should trust, not predictions about the future. Trust in your ability to handle whatever the future brings. Uncertainty also creates space for possibility. When you do not know what will happen, anything could happen. This is terrifying if you focus on the negative possibilities. This is exciting if you stay open to the positive ones. The same uncertainty that could bring failure could bring unexpected success. The same uncertainty that could bring loss could bring gain. The same uncertainty that could bring disappointment could bring delight. Uncertainty is not inherently negative. Your interpretation of it determines your experience. Greg was laid off from his job. Suddenly his future was completely uncertain. He did not know how he would pay his bills. He did not know if he would find another job. He did not know what would happen. He could have spiraled into panic, but he chose differently. He acknowledged the uncertainty. Then he looked for possibility in it. Maybe this is a chance to find something better. Maybe this is pushing me toward a change I needed but was too scared to make. Maybe something good is on the other side of this. He stayed open. He applied for jobs. He also explored options he had never considered before. 6 months later, he was in a better position than before the layoff. The uncertainty had created space for a positive change that would not have happened otherwise. This does not mean you should be recklessly optimistic. It means you should be balanced. Acknowledge both the risks and the opportunities in uncertainty. Do not catastrophize. Do not minimize. Just stay realistic. I do not know what will happen. It could go badly. It could go well. It will probably be somewhere in between, and I can handle any of those outcomes. This balanced perspective keeps you grounded in uncertainty instead of spinning in anxiety. Peace in uncertainty also comes from staying present. Uncertainty is always about the future. When you are fully present, there is no uncertainty. Right now, in this moment, you know what is happening. You might not know what will happen later today or tomorrow or next year, but right now, you know, you are breathing, you are reading or listening, you are here. This moment is certain. It is the only certainty you have. When anxiety about uncertainty arises, come back to now. This anchors you in what is actually real instead of what is imagined. Sarah was waiting for medical test results. The uncertainty was overwhelming. She could not stop thinking about all the terrible possibilities. Her mind created endless scary scenarios. Finally, she realized she was making herself sick over something that had not happened yet. She might be fine. The tests might be negative. She was suffering through terrible outcomes that existed only in her imagination. She decided to come back to the present. Right now, I am okay. Right now, I am healthy enough to walk my dog. Right now, I can enjoy this coffee. Right now, I can call my friend. She stayed in the now. The uncertainty did not disappear, but the suffering around it did. Another key to peace in uncertainty is focusing on what you can control. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control your preparation, your effort, your choices, your responses. Pour your energy into what you can actually influence. Let go of what you cannot. This creates a sense of agency, even in uncertainty. You might not know how the job interview will go, but you can prepare well. You might not know if the relationship will work, but you can show up authentically. You might not know if your business will succeed, but you can give it your best effort. Focus on your part. Release the results. Finding peace in uncertainty is not about becoming comfortable with chaos. It is about becoming comfortable with not knowing. It is about building tolerance for ambiguity. It is about accepting that you will never have all the information. You will never eliminate risk. You will never predict everything. And that is okay. That is just being human. That is just being alive. Life is uncertain. Fighting that truth creates suffering. Accepting it creates freedom. Nicole got the job, but more importantly, she learned something valuable in that waiting room. She could be okay without knowing. She could feel fear without being controlled by it. She could face uncertainty and still function. This lesson served her far beyond that one interview. It served her through career changes, relationship challenges, health scares, financial ups and downs. Life continued to be uncertain. It always would be. But she was no longer at war with that uncertainty. She had made peace with it. You can too. Right now, there are things in your life you do not know, outcomes you cannot predict, futures you cannot see. This uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. You do not need to know how everything will turn out to take the next step. You do not need guarantees to move forward. You do not need certainty to have peace. You just need to stop demanding what you cannot have and start trusting what you do have, your resilience, your adaptability, your capacity to handle whatever comes. This is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything. The peace you are seeking is not on the other side of certainty. It is on this side of acceptance. Accepting that you do not know. Accepting that you cannot control. Accepting that life is unpredictable and you are okay with that. This acceptance does not make you passive. It makes you powerful. Because you are no longer wasting energy fighting reality. You are using that energy to engage with reality, to do what you can, to trust the process, to stay present, to find possibility, to keep moving forward even when you cannot see the whole path. This is how you find peace in uncertainty, not by eliminating it, but by no longer needing to. Chapter 11. Building a detachment practice. Understanding detachment is one thing, living it is another. You can know all the principles, you can agree with all the concepts, but knowledge without practice is just theory. Detachment is not something you learn once and master forever. It is something you practice daily, moment by moment, situation by situation. It is a skill you build over time through consistent effort. Like any skill, it requires repetition. It requires patience with yourself. It requires showing up even when it is hard. Think of detachment like learning to play an instrument. You can read about music theory, you can understand how notes work, but you cannot play the piano without actually sitting down and practicing. Your fingers need to learn the movements. Your brain needs to build the neural pathways. Your muscle memory needs to develop. This takes time. This takes daily practice. This takes making mistakes and trying again. Detachment works the same way. The first step in building a practice is awareness. You cannot change what you do not notice. Start paying attention to when you are attached to outcomes, when you are trying to control the uncontrollable, when you are resisting what is, when you are reacting instead of responding. Notice it without judgment. Do not shame yourself for being attached. Just notice. Oh, I am trying to control this. Oh, I am attached to this specific outcome. Oh, I am resisting this reality. Awareness is always the beginning. Mark started keeping a small notebook. Every time he caught himself being controlling or attached or resistant, he wrote it down, not to beat himself up, just to notice patterns. By the end of the first week, he had dozens of entries. He was shocked at how often he was trying to control things he could not control, how much energy he spent worrying about outcomes, how frequently he resisted what was happening. The awareness itself was transformative. He could not see the problem before he started paying attention. Once he saw it clearly, he could start working with it. The second step is creating reminders. Your default mode is attachment. Your brain automatically tries to control. You need reminders to interrupt this pattern. Some people use their breath as a reminder. Every time they take a conscious breath, they check in. Am I trying to control something I cannot? Some people use physical objects, a bracelet, a stone in their pocket. Every time they touch it, they remember to practice detachment. Some people use specific times. Every time they stop at a red light. Every time they wash their hands. Find what works for you. Jennifer set alarms on her phone. 3 times a day, an alarm would go off with a simple message: let go. When the alarm went off, she would pause whatever she was doing. She would check in with herself. What am I holding too tightly right now? What am I resisting? What outcome am I attached to? Then she would consciously practice letting go, just for that moment. This simple practice 3 times a day changed her relationship with control. The alarms interrupted her automatic patterns and reminded her to choose differently. The third step is specific practices you can use in the moment. When you notice you are attached or controlling or resistant, what do you actually do? Here are some practices that work. First, the release breath. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, imagine releasing whatever you are holding on to. Visualize letting it go. Do this 3 times. This signals to your nervous system that you are choosing to let go. It creates a physical release that matches the mental one. Second, the acceptance statement. Say to yourself silently or out loud, "This is what is happening right now. I do not have to like it. I just have to acknowledge it." This simple statement shifts you from resistance to acceptance, from fighting reality to working with it. You can follow it with a question. Given this reality, what can I actually do? This moves you from being stuck in wishing things were different to engaging with what is. Third, the circle practice. Remember the 3 circles from earlier. The inner circle of what you control, the middle circle of what you can influence, the outer circle of what you cannot control. When you are stressed, ask yourself which circle this belongs in. If it is in the outer circle, consciously redirect your energy. I cannot control this. Where can I put this energy that would actually be useful? This practice keeps you focused on your actual sphere of influence. Fourth, the future self question. Ask yourself, will this matter in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Often what feels urgent and important right now will not matter at all in the long run. This perspective helps you detach from the drama of the moment. Some things truly matter, most things do not. This question helps you distinguish between them. Fifth, the gratitude redirect. When you are caught in resistance or worry, consciously shift to gratitude. What is actually okay right now? What is working? What do you have? This does not ignore your problems. It just prevents them from consuming your entire perspective. It reminds you that even when things are hard, there is still good, still things to appreciate, still reasons to trust that you will be okay. These practices are tools. You do not need to use all of them. Find the ones that resonate with you. Use them consistently. The more you practice, the more automatic they become. Eventually, detachment stops being something you have to work so hard at. It starts being your default response, but that only happens through repetition. Carlos practiced the release breath. At first it felt awkward, forced, like he was just going through the motions. But he kept doing it. Every time he caught himself gripping too tightly, he would breathe and release. After a few weeks, he noticed something. His body had learned the pattern. Just taking the deep breath started the release process. He did not have to force it anymore. His nervous system recognized the signal. Oh, we are letting go now. The practice had become embodied. Building a detachment practice also means working on your underlying patterns. Why do you attach to outcomes? Often it is because your worth feels tied to them. If you succeed, you are valuable. If you fail, you are not. This core belief drives attachment. Working on your self-worth independent of outcomes is deep work. It might require therapy. It might require journaling. It might require confronting old wounds, but it is worth it. When your worth is not on the line, letting go becomes much easier. Why do you try to control everything? Often it is because you do not trust yourself to handle uncertainty. You think you need to control outcomes to be safe. Building trust in yourself changes this. Every time you face uncertainty and handle it, you build evidence. I can deal with the unexpected. I can adapt. I can figure things out. This trust makes control less necessary. You do not need to control the future when you trust you can handle whatever the future brings. Susan had deep control issues stemming from childhood chaos. Her home life had been unpredictable and sometimes scary. She learned to cope by trying to control everything around her. As an adult, this showed up as micromanaging, excessive planning, anxiety when things did not go as expected. She could not just practice letting go. She needed to heal the wound that made control feel necessary. She worked with a therapist. She processed the trauma. She built new neural pathways. Slowly, she started to feel safe without needing to control everything. The practices of detachment became easier as the underlying wound healed. Another aspect of building a practice is community. Detachment goes against cultural norms. Society tells you to hustle, to control, to force outcomes, to never give up on getting what you want. Having people who understand detachment helps. People who can remind you when you are spiraling. People who practice it themselves. People who support you in letting go instead of gripping tighter. This might be a therapist, a meditation group, a friend on the same journey. Find your people. Michael joined a meditation group, not because he wanted to become a meditation expert, but because he wanted to be around people who valued presence and letting go. The weekly meetings kept him accountable. When he shared his struggles with attachment, others shared theirs. He realized he was not alone. Everyone was working on this. Everyone had moments of gripping too tightly. Everyone needed reminders to let go. The community normalized the practice. It made it feel less like a personal failing and more like a human challenge everyone faces. Building a practice also means being kind to yourself when you fail. You will forget to practice. You will attach to outcomes. You will try to control things. You will resist reality. You will react instead of respond. This is guaranteed. You are human. The practice is not about being perfect. It is about catching yourself sooner each time, about recovering faster, about getting a little better gradually. Progress is not linear. Some days you will feel like you have it figured out. Other days you will feel like you have learned nothing. Both are part of the process. When you notice you have failed to practice detachment, do not shame yourself. Use it as information. What happened? What triggered the attachment? What could you do differently next time? Learn from it, then let it go. Holding on to shame about not being detached is just another form of attachment. Be as detached from your progress as you are trying to be from outcomes. Some days will be better than others. That is okay. Rachel beat herself up every time she caught herself being controlling. She would notice the pattern and immediately feel like a failure. Why am I still doing this? I should be better by now. I am never going to learn this. This self-criticism made the practice harder. It added suffering on top of the original problem. When she learned to be gentle with herself, everything changed. Oh, I am being controlling again. That is okay. That is just my old pattern. I can choose differently right now. This compassionate approach made progress actually possible. Building a practice also means celebrating small wins. You caught yourself trying to control something and consciously let go. That is a win. You noticed you were resisting reality and chose acceptance. That is a win. You paused before reacting and chose a response. That is a win. You stayed present instead of spiraling into future worry. That is a win. These moments add up. Each one matters. Each one is building the skill. Acknowledge them. Appreciate them. They are proof that you are changing. David started keeping a success journal. Every evening, he wrote down one moment from that day where he practiced detachment successfully. Some days it was something big. He got rejected for a job and accepted it without spiraling. Some days it was something small. He let his partner load the dishwasher their way instead of trying to control it. Both counted. Both mattered. Over time, he had pages and pages of evidence that he was getting better at this. When he doubted his progress, he could read through the journal and see how far he had come. Finally, building a practice means understanding this is lifelong work. You do not arrive at a place where you never attach to outcomes again. You do not reach a point where you have perfect detachment at all times. Life continues to present situations that challenge you. You continue to have areas where detachment is harder. The practice is ongoing, but it does get easier. The recoveries get faster. The awareness gets sharper. The tools become more automatic. You build capacity over time. Think of it like physical fitness. You do not work out for a month and then stay fit forever without continued effort. You have to keep practicing, but it gets easier. Your strength builds, your endurance improves, you learn what works for your body. Detachment is the same. You keep practicing. Your capacity builds, your resilience improves, you learn what works for your mind and heart. The practice becomes part of who you are, instead of something you force yourself to do. The key is starting. Not starting perfectly, not starting when you feel ready, not starting when you have figured it all out. Starting now, today, this moment. Notice where you are attached. Choose to let go. Notice where you are resisting. Choose to accept. Notice where you are controlling. Choose to release. Do this today. Do it again tomorrow. Keep doing it, day after day, moment after moment. This is how you build a practice. This is how detachment becomes real. This is how you change your life. Chapter 12. Freedom through surrender. The word surrender has negative connotations for most people. It sounds like giving up, like defeat, like weakness, like waving a white flag and admitting you lost. But surrender in the context of detachment is something entirely different. It is not about losing. It is about winning. Not winning over others or circumstances, winning over your own suffering, winning over your own resistance, winning your freedom back from the illusion of control. True surrender is the ultimate act of strength. It takes enormous courage to stop fighting, to stop resisting, to stop trying to force outcomes, to stop pretending you have control you do not have. Most people spend their entire lives in an exhausting battle with reality, trying to make life go according to their plans, trying to control what others think and do, trying to prevent anything bad from happening, trying to guarantee only good outcomes. This battle is unwinnable. Reality will always win, but people keep fighting anyway, until they are broken and bitter and exhausted. Surrender is choosing to stop fighting, not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to see that the fight itself is the problem. The circumstances you are fighting might be challenging, but the real suffering comes from your resistance to those circumstances, from your refusal to accept what is, from your insistence that things should be different than they are. When you surrender, you are not giving in to the circumstances, you are giving up the exhausting battle against reality. Patricia spent 20 years trying to change her husband. She thought if she just explained better, he would understand her needs. She thought if she just tried harder, he would become more attentive. She thought if she just loved him enough, he would change. She tried everything: therapy, books, ultimatums, pleading. Nothing worked. He was who he was, and her constant efforts to change him were destroying both of them. She was frustrated and resentful. He was defensive and distant. The marriage was dying under the weight of her resistance to who he actually was. Finally, Patricia surrendered. Not the marriage, the fight. She stopped trying to change him. She accepted him exactly as he was. This did not mean she approved of everything he did. It did not mean she had no needs. It meant she stopped making her peace conditional on him being different. She stopped resisting the reality of who he was. This surrender transformed everything. She became calmer, less resentful, more present, and ironically, when she stopped trying to change him, he started changing on his own. Not because she manipulated him into it, but because her acceptance created space for him to grow instead of constantly defending himself. This is the paradox of surrender. When you stop trying to control outcomes, you often get better outcomes, not because surrender is a manipulation tactic, but because surrender allows things to unfold naturally instead of being forced. It allows people to be themselves instead of constantly resisting your efforts to change them. It allows life to surprise you instead of being limited to only what you can imagine and plan for. Surrender opens doors that control keeps locked. Surrender also frees your energy. Think about how much energy you use trying to control the uncontrollable, worrying about outcomes, planning for every scenario, trying to manage what people think, attempting to prevent all possible problems, resisting what is already happening. This takes enormous energy, energy that could be used for living, for creating, for enjoying, for connecting, for being present. When you surrender control, all that energy becomes available for better purposes. James surrendered his need to control how his adult children lived their lives. For years he had opinions about everything they did, their careers, their partners, their choices, their lifestyles. He could not help himself. He saw problems they did not see. He had wisdom they were not using. He wanted to protect them from mistakes. His constant advice and worry and criticism pushed them away. They barely called. They did not share their lives with him. He was losing them while trying so hard to help them. When he surrendered, he felt lighter immediately. All the energy he had been using to worry about their choices became available. He used it to pursue his own interests, to invest in his own relationship, to be present with his grandchildren when he did see them, to enjoy his own life instead of living vicariously through theirs and being constantly disappointed. And his relationships with his children improved dramatically. They started calling more, sharing more, because they felt accepted instead of judged. Surrender gave him back the relationship he wanted, the one he could never achieve through control. Surrender is also about surrendering to the present moment. You spend so much energy resisting what is happening right now. You wish it was different. You think it should not be this way. You compare it to how it used to be or how you imagined it would be. This resistance creates suffering. What is happening is happening. Fighting that fact changes nothing except your peace. When you surrender to the present moment, you stop the internal war. You accept what is so. You can respond to it effectively instead of wasting energy wishing it away. Linda's son was diagnosed with autism. She spent months in resistance. This should not be happening. Why us? This is not what I wanted. This is not the future I planned. Her resistance made an already challenging situation unbearable. She could not help her son because she was too busy fighting the reality of his diagnosis. She could not be present with him because she was mourning the child she thought she would have, instead of accepting the child she did have. When she finally surrendered to the reality, everything shifted. Yes, my son has autism. This is what is. Now, what do I do with this reality? Her energy went from resistance to action. She learned about autism. She found resources. She celebrated his unique strengths. She adapted her expectations. She built a life that worked for him, instead of trying to force him into a life that did not. Surrender did not change the diagnosis, but it changed her experience of it completely. It freed her to actually help her son, instead of being paralyzed by wishing things were different. Surrender requires trust. You have to trust that you will be okay, even if things do not go as planned. You have to trust that life has wisdom you cannot always see. You have to trust the process, even when you cannot see where it is leading. You have to trust yourself to handle whatever comes. This trust is not blind faith. It is based on evidence. You have survived everything in your life so far, every challenge, every disappointment, every unexpected turn. You figured it out. You adapted. You made it through. This history is proof that you can trust yourself with an uncertain future. Surrender is also about surrendering your timeline. You want things to happen now. You want results immediately. You want to know how long this will take. You want guarantees about timing. But life has its own pace. Your surrender includes accepting that things will unfold when they unfold, not on your schedule, on theirs. This does not mean you become passive. You still work. You still try. You still move forward. But you release your grip on when things should happen. You trust the timing even when it does not match your preferences. Eric wanted to find a partner. He was tired of being alone. He tried everything. Dating apps, social events, blind dates. He put himself out there constantly, but nothing was working. Month after month passed with no results. He became desperate, anxious, bitter. Why is this taking so long? When will it happen? What is wrong with me? His desperation made him less attractive. His anxiety made dating stressful instead of fun. His timeline was ruining his chances. When he surrendered his timeline, dating became enjoyable again. He went on dates to meet interesting people, not to find the one immediately. He let go of needing it to happen on his schedule. He trusted it would happen when it was supposed to. This shift in energy changed everything. He was relaxed, present, authentic. 6 months later, he met someone. The relationship developed naturally, without force, without desperation, because he had surrendered his need to control when it happened. The timing was not what he wanted, but it was what was right. Surrender is the final lesson of detachment. You detach from outcomes by surrendering your need to control them. You detach from the past by surrendering your resistance to what happened. You detach from the future by surrendering your demand for certainty. You detach from people by surrendering your need to change them. You detach from your own suffering by surrendering the fight against reality. Every form of detachment is an act of surrender. This does not make you weak. It makes you free. Free from the exhausting burden of trying to control everything. Free from the constant disappointment of life not going according to plan. Free from the anxiety of uncertainty. Free from the pain of resistance. Free to be present. Free to adapt. Free to flow with life instead of constantly fighting against it. This freedom is what you have been seeking all along, and it has always been available through surrender. The practice of surrender is simple but not easy. When you notice yourself gripping, controlling, resisting, forcing, fighting, pause, take a breath, and consciously release. I surrender my need to control this. I surrender my resistance to this reality. I surrender my timeline. I surrender my expectations. I trust that I will be okay. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you stop trying. It means you stop suffering. You stop making your peace conditional on getting what you want, when you want it, how you want it. You let go. You trust. You surrender. Maria surrendered her need to understand why bad things happened. She had spent years asking why. Why did my mother die young? Why did I get sick? Why did my marriage fail? Why did I lose my job? These questions had no satisfying answers. They kept her stuck in the past. They prevented her from moving forward. When she surrendered the need to know why, she found peace. Some things do not have reasons. Some things just are. Fighting this created suffering. Accepting it created freedom. Surrender is an ongoing practice. You do not surrender once and stay surrendered forever. You will grip again. You will resist again. You will fight again. This is human. The practice is catching yourself and consciously choosing to surrender again, over and over. Each time you do it, it gets a little easier. The grip loosens a little faster. The resistance fades a little sooner. The peace comes a little quicker. This is growth. This is progress. This is freedom. You have come a long way through these chapters. You understand the illusion of control. You know what you can actually control and what you cannot. You understand why your brain craves certainty. You see the cost of attachment. You know how to accept what is. You have learned the power of letting go. You understand the importance of presence. You know how to trust the process. You can respond instead of react. You can find peace in uncertainty. You have tools to build a practice. And now you understand the ultimate freedom that comes through surrender. These are not just concepts. These are skills you can practice, principles you can live by, tools you can use every single day. They will not make your life perfect. They will not eliminate all challenges. They will not guarantee you get everything you want, but they will give you something more valuable than any of that. They will give you peace. They will give you freedom. They will give you the ability to be okay regardless of what happens. This is what detachment offers, not control over your circumstances, but freedom from being controlled by them. The journey does not end here. This is actually where it begins. Everything you have read is just preparation. The real work happens in your life, in your moments of stress and uncertainty and challenge, in your relationships and work and daily experiences. This is where you practice. This is where you grow. This is where you discover that you actually can let go. You actually can surrender. You actually can find peace in the midst of chaos. You actually can be free. Start today. Start now. Notice where you are gripping too tightly. Choose to release. Notice where you are resisting. Choose to accept. Notice where you are fighting. Choose to surrender. Do this moment by moment, day by day, not perfectly, not all at once, just consistently. The practice will change you, gradually, gently, but profoundly. You will become lighter, freer, more peaceful, not because your life became perfect, but because you stopped demanding that it be perfect to allow yourself peace. This is the gift of detachment. This is the power of surrender. This is freedom, real freedom, not freedom from challenge or uncertainty or loss. Freedom in the midst of all of that. Freedom to be okay regardless. Freedom to be present regardless. Freedom to love regardless. Freedom to live fully regardless. This freedom is your birthright. It has always been yours. You just had to stop fighting long enough to claim it. Stop fighting now. Surrender now. Be free now. The peace you seek is here. It has always been here. Right on the other side of your resistance. Right on the other side of your need to control. Right on the other side of your attachments. Let go. Surrender. Be free.